Hey Gumby, what's up, dude? Drawing that first blood. I'm doing pretty good. Kids were manageable. I just need to get caught up on some work I need to do. And since I'm doing something new for this time, and I just kind of learning as I go. You know, baptism by fire. Or do not. There is no try. Wait for everybody to file in and start the stream. I'm just making sure I got everything up and running. One program wanted to update, and as soon as I saw that, I was like, nope. Tried that last time. It broke the iPad. Oh, the Gumby, hope you've been having a good night.
I can't hear you. Sound off like you got a pair.
That's because while I'm doing stuff, I constantly mute myself. How's your week going so far, Gumby? So far, so good. Awesome, man. Only had 2 hours of sleep in the last 24 hours? Bro. I'm actually working on increasing my sleep because after that back injury, I realized when I got like a lot of sleep, my muscles didn't hurt. And my wife just gave me the biggest shit-eating I told you so grin. Seventeen seconds. Good to go. There's some good news stories too this week. All right, let's kick it off. What's up, everyone? Happy Tuesday. Is my microphone? Oh, it sure is. That's all right. You can stay there, little microphone. I mean, you're not little. You are perfectly sized and adequate. The bigger microphones hurt. I kind of drank like 4 energy drinks last night and didn't fall asleep till like 11 a.m. Oh, damn, dude. Too funny. All right. Let's go and kick off the news. Yeah, I'm doing an assessment right now, and it's there's a bunch of new tasks that I've got to do for it, and so I'm just feeling like I'm behind, even though I'm probably not. I feel like I am, so probably I already warned the wife. Tomorrow night will be a late working night. Hey, Allie Callie, what's up? We back at it tonight. Damn, dude. All right, well, let's hop into the news here. So, I saw this, but I didn't look into this. So, the Department of Homeland Security disbanded the Cyber Safety Review Board. I saw this pop up in Security Weekly. No, I don't want to subscribe. Go away. The Trump administration has removed all members from the Cyber Safety Review Board, ending what some observers saw as one of the few bright spots for CISA. The memo signed by acting DHS Secretary Huffman cited a commitment to eliminating misuse of resources and directed the immediate termination of all memberships across several advisory committees, including the CSRB. So future committee activities will be focused solely on advancing our critical mission of protecting the homeland and supporting DHS's strategic priorities. What do they do here? So the CSRB was established under Biden's executive order on improving the nation's cybersecurity to study major cyber incidents and recommend improvements. Its members served as in a volunteer capacity and did not have any regulatory or enforcement authority. The board conducted 3 investigations: the Log4Shell crisis, the Lapsus attack, and the Microsoft Exchange Online breach, and gained the respect of security professionals for harshly calling out corporate and technical deficiencies at major corporations. So they did. I remember that. They gave them quite a firm social beatdown, but that doesn't really equate to too much whenever they do that. I don't know what change actually might have come from that, but I digress. In its review of the Exchange Online hack, CSRB decried a cascade of Microsoft's avoidable errors that allowed the intrusion to succeed, and insisted that the intrusion was preventable and should never have occurred. Right. And you know what, I'll take Microsoft probably actually did take an initiative on that, because they do seem actually I want to say they've seemed committed to Azure security and their whole Azure suite, but at the same time, it was made by Microsoft. There's some pretty interesting vulnerabilities in it. I don't want to say vulnerabilities, let's call them misconfiguration opportunities, right? By the way, back to rocking the green Jackos again. Yeah. Microsoft's security culture was inadequate and requires an overhaul, particularly in light of the company's centrality in the technology ecosystem and the level of trust customers place in the company to protect their data operations. All right, so where's the actual go-to here? So anything else? The CSRB was made up of cybersecurity professionals from the federal government and the private sector and included Google VP Heather Atkins, CrowdStrike co-founder Dmitry Alper Alperovich. Alperovich? Alperovich. Yeah, I'm going to go with that. Sentinel One's Chris Krebs and former NSA director Rob Joyce. Rocking the blue Notch drinks. Actually, if I don't have any chocolates with me, that's one of the ones I can tend to go to. All right, so according to published reports, U.S. Coast Guard veteran. Oh, I skipped a part here. So the fate of CISA is also up in the air following the departure of Director Jen Easterly and Deputy Nitin Nataranjan. Under Easterly, CISA established itself as the go-to agency for federal incident response and cybersecurity mitigation guidance, but it has generated controversy in some circles for not providing substantial ROI for its multi-billion-dollar annual budget. Yeah, that's a pretty hefty budget for what they're doing. Now, granted, I think they're leaving some stuff out here because CISA was actually starting to do some no-knock red team assessments in there too. So according to published reports, U.S. Coast Guard veteran Sean Planke has been tapped as the nominee to replace Easterly at CISA. Planke previously served in Trump's Energy Department as the Principal Deputy Assistant Secretary for the Office of Cybersecurity. Separately, the Trump administration revoked Biden's executive order on AI safety, document that attempted to establish safety guidelines for the use of generative AI technologies. What was covered in that executive order? Let's see. So when was this? This was October 30th of 23. Just want to give this a quick read through real fast. Let's see. Biden on Monday will sign a sweeping executive order to guide the development of artificial intelligence, requiring the industry to develop safety and security standards, introducing new consumer protections, and giving federal agencies an extensive to-do list to oversee the rapid progressive technology. All right, so what was the actual meat of this, though? Order builds on voluntary commitments. Yep. So using the Defense Production Act, the order will require leading AI developers to share safety test results and other information with the government. The National Institute of Standards and Technology is to create standards to ensure AI tools are safe and secure before public release. That's such a broad statement, though. So this was before I really started digging into a lot of the generative AI stuff and determining what's safe and secure is a bit difficult. And as somebody who has worked in offensive security for getting on to 7 years now, it really can be. Commerce Department is set to issue guidance to label the watermark AI-generated content, to label and watermark AI-generated content to help differentiate between authentic interactions and those generated by software. Yeah, but the watermark's just going to keep the legit stuff legit. That's all it's going to do. Hang on one sec, guys. I gotta check something real quick. Let me pop into OPSEC mode. One of my systems is saying it's offline. Alright. Should be back up. Let's see. They're talking about basically deep fakes. This is one thing I think is actually really telling of when a physicist is out of their prime. Nobel Prize-winning physicists talked about how AI could explain the origins of the universe, and other scientists showed how an AI model could model extreme weather like 100-year floods, as past data used to assess these events has lost its accuracy because of climate change. That's usually what happens, though. They tend to go into areas where they don't understand what they're doing. AI, as it's being interpreted here, is something like generative AI, where it is, or basically, what's the next token AI, let's call it, large language models. And those are not really doing too much. Anyway, all right, so that was the executive order. It looks like Trump has nixed that. What else do we have here? Well, speaking on that same vein here, so we got Project Stargate. So I've read a little bit about this, but I'd like to get a few more details on it. The Stargate Project is a new company which intends to invest $500 billion over the next 4 years. That's a hefty budget. building new AI infrastructure for OpenAI in the United States. Begin deploying $100 billion immediately. Now, this is actually really interesting because this brings up another thing and something I'm going to talk about a little bit later, and that is all the interesting results that are coming out of DeepSeek. So, if you're not familiar, DeepSeek R1 or V3, I forget which one it is. I think it's R1. Was recently released by a Chinese firm that's a hedge fund, and they're claiming that they trained this model for, in AI terms, what is dirt cheap money. So they're not charging a lot for it. Now, there's the fun theory that this is being done as an AstroTurf to basically undercut things like NVIDIA and OpenAI. So they're not charging as much. So the theory is either they're lying about the training process or they're lying about the actual cost to run the model. I'm going to lean towards the latter and that it's being subsidized probably because that is a 600 billion parameter model, which means to run that, you need to have about 600 gigabytes of memory to run the model. And if you want to run that real fast, just to run one model is going to be about $250,000 of NVIDIA hardware. Now, NVIDIA is under I guess the right term would be sanctioned, but where they're not getting the latest and greatest NVIDIA hardware, at least not through legit means. So if that's the case, they're either using something else, probably not, or they're using NVIDIA hardware and they don't actually want to disclose the true amount of how much it cost to acquire that hardware and then train this model. But anyway. So it's interesting that we're like, hey, we're going to start boosting all this stuff from OpenAI right about the time DeepSeek comes out. The infrastructure will secure American leadership in AI, create hundreds of thousands of American jobs, generate massive economic benefit for the entire world. Project will not only support the reindustrialization of the United States, but also provide strategic capabilities to protect national security of America and its allies. Oh, so this is a statement from OpenAI directly. So, of course, it looks all flowery for OpenAI. Let's see. They have initial equity funders, SoftBank, MGX. ARM, Microsoft, NVIDIA, Oracle, and OpenAI are key initial technology partners. The build-out is currently underway starting in Texas, and we are evaluating potential sites across the country for more campuses. As part of Stargate, Oracle, NVIDIA, and OpenAI will closely collaborate and build and operate the computing system. This builds on a deep collaboration between OpenAI and NVIDIA, going back to 2016. Yeah, I mean, so it sounds really neat. I wish they had covered that, but I think really one of the more interesting parts is what Oracle's founder literally said, omnipresent AI cameras will ensure good behavior. It's like, bro, did you not even read 1984, man? Come on. And this is just from September of last year. So Oracle's Larry Ellison says surveillance systems of police body cams, cameras on cars, and autonomous drones, all monitored by AI, will constantly record and report on police and citizens, leading everyone to be on their best behavior. Now, if you want to know what a lot of public feel about that, just go ask the folks over in England how they feel about the low emission cameras and what they're doing with those. And that's England. They're very tame compared to Americans. So, yeah, good luck with that one. I, for one, welcome our new tech overlords. Duck, Sarah Connor is looking down on you and crying one single little tear. Now, this was actually cool because I had this one queued up and then I saw it was already in the list here for this. But check this out. This was really sick. My buddy actually sent this to me earlier in the week. Tracking and controlling cars via the Starlink admin panel in Subarus. 2FA bypass was particularly egregious. You just delete the pop-up. Makes you want a 2006 vintage vehicle with none of the remote management. I told my buddy, it's like, if I could, the first carbureted pickup truck I can find, I'm gonna get. I'm so sick of electronics in vehicles. I don't even want fuel injection. I want something that I could take apart and potentially, with some machining gear, go build my own damn part to fix. I'm getting kind of fed up with it. Alright, so this is from samcurry.net. So, November 2024, Shubham Shah and I discovered a security vulnerability in Starlink Subaru's Starlink connected vehicle service that gave us unrestricted targeted access to all vehicles and customer accounts in the United States Canada, and Japan. So using the access provided by the vulnerability, an attacker who only knew the victim's last name and zip code, victim's last name and zip code, email address, phone number, or license plate. This is a weird sentence. I don't know which one they needed. They need just one of these? Last name and zip code, or email, or phone number, or license plate? Could do but this is the capabilities they could unlock with that. Remotely start, stop, lock, and unlock, and retrieve the current vehicle location of any car. Retrieve any vehicle's complete location history for the past year, accurate to within 5 meters. Query and retrieve the personally identifiable information of any customer, including emergency contacts, authorized users, physical address, billing information, including the last 4 digits of their credit card, and vehicle PIN. Access miscellaneous user data, including support call history, previous owners, odometer readings, sales history, etc. Oh, I bet every insurance company wants access to that. But actually, this is pretty cool. So after reporting the vulnerability, the affected system was patched within 24 hours and never exploited maliciously. So taking over Subaru using only the license plate in about 10 seconds, retrieving over a year's worth of location history from the vehicle. Actually, let's take a look at this video real fast. What are they showing on here? They call it Subaru. That's terrible. So he puts in that address here. And it looks like he registered his own account to be able to do this. Or maybe Sam had a Subaru. Dang, look at all those digits fly. Oops. But how can they do that with the license plate unless they can see the VIN somehow? I would suppose that the license plate is registered as part of the person's Subaru account. All right, so he's going to go log into the My Subaru site with a temporary password. You're going to make a new password, right? I guess that's a 2FA pin. That doesn't really make it 2FA. Makes it second password. Then he's doing the location service. Let's see. Loading. Let's see. There's also a 2FA bypass in here. I want to see where that is. Vehicle's been located. Interesting. So what was the crux of this then? Let's see. All right, so a little over a year ago, I bought my mom a 2023 Super Impreza with the promise that she would let me borrow it and try to hack it. What a funny condition to give somebody a car. By the way, I get to hack this thing. While visiting home for Thanksgiving this year, I took the opportunity and asked for the account login to see if I could get anywhere. The first thing I looked at was the mobile app. The app allowed users to send vehicle commands, so I proxied the app using Burp and intercepted the telematic command HTTP request, hoping to find a vulnerability and unlock cars without authorization. So it gives an example request here. Unlock door command, what the VIN and the PIN is. Okay. After failing to bypass the authorization for the in-app vehicle commands, I looked around the app a bit more and couldn't find anything else interesting to test. Everything seemed properly secured. There weren't a lot of endpoints, and the authorization worked well. Maybe testing the My Subaru app was the wrong approach. From my past experience with car companies, I knew that they could be publicly accessible employee-facing applications with broader permissions than the customer-facing site. So with that in mind, I went hunting. Found a Subaru admin panel. What? Sent his friend a message over Discord to see if he might help finding any potential employee applications. He said sure, then he immediately sent me this message. SubaruCS.com. He noticed that mysubaru.com, a domain in the Subaru app, was a CNAME for MS-prod SubaruCS.com, a domain which he hadn't seen before. So it's like they're going to do a little bit of a subdomain enumeration. Found some other subdomains, and then they found portal prod SubaruCS.com, which was the Starlink admin portal. Burn. Well, that definitely looks like an employee functionality. From a quick Google, it appears that Starlink was the name of Subaru's in-vehicle infotainment system, which provided all the remote functionality for the vehicle. I wonder why they called it Starlink, because, I mean, there was already a Starlink. Or am I thinking of a... I guess I'm thinking of Mustang. What's the other thing I was thinking about? The GPS they used to have in all the cars. They're like, this is going to be the greatest thing ever. I forget what that was called. Never quite took off. OnStar. Thanks, Gumby. Yes, OnStar. That's the one I was thinking of. So at first glance, it didn't seem like there was going to be much there. Just a login panel. Didn't have any credentials, so I checked the source code. Was hoping to a bit more. The following caught my eye. Source assets Starlink enroll.js. There was an interesting JavaScript file under the assets.js folder loaded onto the login page, so I went ahead and brute forced the directory in hoping of finding others. So after a few minutes of running fuff, we got a hit for login.js file, which had the following very interesting code snippets. Points to Gumby. 50 points to Gumbydor. Let's see, so what does this say? So on new password, click if forgot password, step 4 form, valid, disable BTNS? That is. So it's going to send a post request to reset password JSON application, email, password. I'm surely not reading this correctly, because it looks like in the JavaScript, they've got an AJAX call to set what the new password and the confirm new password is. Oh yeah, disable buttons. Good call. Let me read what he says about this, and maybe I'm understanding this code incorrectly. So it appears that there was a reset password.json endpoint that would reset employees' accounts without a confirmation token. If this worked how it was written in the JavaScript, then an attacker could simply enter any valid employee email and take over their account. So I sent the following post request to confirm the functionality was even accessible. And got a response of an error. Okay, thank God. So it seemed to be working. Oh, he got an error because he used a random email address. Oh, Lord. So we just needed to find an employee's email address to test it on. Since it was a fairly large application, there was probably a bunch of different users. Just had to find one in some way to enumerate them. That's where something like hunter.io would come in handy. Get the format for it, and then just go scrape LinkedIn for the people's names. So I dug through the rest of the JS looking for an endpoint that might let us enumerate email addresses when we saw get security question. Nice. That one just replies with a nice invalid email. So boom, so they've got a user enumeration vulnerability here. Is my family French, by the way? So my dad's family is from, actually, funny enough, both sides are, because my dad's family is from Louisiana, and then my grandmother's family, so on my paternal side, family's from Louisiana. On my maternal side, my grandmother's family was from Canada. So technically, I got it from both sides. Guess how I don't know how you guessed. Is it my love for, well, it used to be wine and cheese, but I don't drink anymore, so just cheese? It's not even like fancy cheese. Here we go. So he did do the same thing. Using LinkedIn, we did a quick search for Super Starlink, found a few employees who appear to be software engineers. So after getting their names, we Googled, found some email addresses. It's first initial, last name. By the way, if you want to ever find that, hunter.io is a good place to go do that. So we tossed a few of the emails that we placed together in the get security question JSON endpoint and hit send. On the 4th attempt, we got a response back. I'm big into origins and names and words, and one today seemed like I haven't seen it before. Oh, okay. Let's see. This particular fake user account they sent was valid. Went back and reset to the password endpoint, hit send, and we got a success. RIP. So it works. So we tried logging in. They get hit with a... In order to authenticate to this device, please answer the following questions. They got hit with a security question. There's now a 2FA prompt to actually use the website. It was a concern, so we tried to see if there was anything to bypass it. Bypassing was basically commenting out the modal. Yep, they literally just this. So when you have a website like this, you get like one of these pop-ups. It's typically called a modal, and they just disabled the single line of JavaScript that generates this modal. Just comment it out. Thanks, Linux. Hey, buddy. If you want the soundtrack, do !music in the chat and it'll link you to it. It's from a video game called Heartbound. And the developers are really cool. That's Pirate Software's game, and I use it basically because then I don't have to worry about freaking DMCA stuff. Yeah, me no music. He's also in Drama Town now. I looked at it and I was like, it's just people getting butthurt, wanting to punch upwards is what a lot of it seems like. But get this. So after removing the client-side overlay, looked around the whole app to see if the functionality looked normal, all the buttons worked, and we're returning server-side data. RIP. Tracking my mom for the last year. So the left nav bar had a ton of different functionality, but the juiciest sounding was last known location. Went ahead and typed in my mom's last name and zip code. Her car popped up in the search results. I clicked it and saw everywhere my mom had traveled for the last year. That could get dicey creeping on your mom like that. You don't know what she do when you're not around. The last known location endpoint was more than the last location. It gave me the exact coordinates of everywhere she had started her engine and used a telematics command over the last year. So I didn't realize the data was being collected. No kidding. I actually said this to a buddy of mine who has a Subaru, and he said, yeah, that's exactly why I disabled all that shit as soon as I got the car. Oh, funny. Let's see. That's crazy. There were a ton of other endpoints. One of the was a vehicle search, which lets you query a customer's last name and zip code, phone number, email address, or VIN, or retrievable or VIN number, which was retrievable via the license plate, and grant or modify access to the vehicle. Ooh. Cypher, what's up, dude? Happy Tuesday. Unlock a friend's car. Add himself as an authorized user. Good lord. So I saw this alert, but this notice, but I didn't actually read through it. So this boils down to they had a shitty password reset flow, and they had a shitty two-factor authentication flow. That's what happened here. The two-factor authentication was largely enforced client-side. You hate to see it, but damn, they just do this every time. I get it, man. Oh, that turned out to be so much less interesting than I thought it was going to be. I mean, don't get me wrong, the impact is huge, but the actual exploit, I was expecting so much more. Oh, man. All right, the ads are about to run here, and then there was a new FortiRect exploit for Forta OS, and then we'll get into that here in just a second. Good lord, man. These exploits. Man, it's just the year of... It's just the year of firewall and VPN exploits. It's like, they're just freaking everywhere. Everybody's getting popped. On the plus side, I actually did fix the iPad. So, hooray! Hack the planet. Was this Bad Cyber Weekend catch-up? I mean, kinda. And I felt really bad on Monday because I wanted to work on Hack the Bot a bunch, but the dev environment just went kaflooey. So I'm working on the dev environment at night to get it up and running, so we'll be good to go for Saturday. This past Saturday, by the way, if you were wondering what happened to the stream, I just couldn't make it. I was coming back from a race. My son and a bunch of my nephews, they do cross-country four-wheel racing, and we had a big race, and it's just, the drive time was like 3 hours to get back home. Just got home too dang late. Hang on one sec, guys. I'll be right back. All right, y'all, I'm back. I had to go confer with the SOC real fast, make sure APT was contained. Dallas attacking itself on the map. Yeah, we do that a lot. I'll tell you a funny story. So I went up to speaking of ATV races, I went up to one in Oklahoma, and it was such an absolute shit show. I sent all my friends in Oklahoma a massive group text. And I was like, hey guys, I know I talk a lot of shit about Oklahoma, but I just want you to know that I realized after going to this race that was entirely inadequate. It was entirely inadequate, and I'm going to redouble my efforts because. And I explained all the stuff that happened at the race, and like, yeah, that sounds like Oklahoma. So, kind of a newbie to this. I sold cars and ones that have their nav. Installed the car, and I'm kind of poking around, looking at how things are hacked because I know I've been hacked. So, Ali, are you saying that you're worried that you have something that was hacked or was compromised? How does one look into settings on a phone to find out if they're actually hacked? So the good news is if you have a kind of recent phone, Ali, it's going to be very difficult actually for someone to pull off a hack on it. The best way to avoid that is one, reboot your phone. Reboot your phone every night because a lot of times if your phone gets some kind of piece of malware on it, it has a very hard time establishing persistence, being ever present on the phone. So what I would say is the first easiest step that you can do is just reboot your phone every night. Like before you go to bed, give it a quick power cycle. That'll help clear out 99% of it. That other 1% that's hanging out in there, they're probably not targeting you because those are really expensive exploits. They're going to save those for extra juicy targets. And people like us, we're just not that cool. Trust me. We're not super agents. We're not 007. They're not going to burn that on us. The next thing you can do is one, just double check the things you install from like the Google App Store or the iOS App Store. Just make sure they're legit. If you're side loading applications, you got to vet the shit out of those before you try and load them up. And I'd say the other part after that is if you can try to use something with like an ad blocking browser, because a lot of times malware gets served up through advertisements. They'll try to make it look like a legitimate site, and then they'll come in and bring in their backdoored version of it. So those are kind of like the top 3 things you could do. The Brave browser is one of the better ones for just built-in ad blocking on the system. Hey Gumby, I saw that you subscribed, but did it actually play the alert? I didn't hear it. And Ali, also bear with me because YouTube chat does have a 20-second delay. I can't do anything about it, but I do see your messages coming through. Oh, it did play it? Okay, awesome. Dang it. Freaking OBS. Killing me, OBS. So there's a stupid little setting in here. It's not really dumb, but you see, these are all the things that are generating sound. One of them is the Twitch alerts. What I have to do is turn the monitoring off and then turn it back on. And then all of a sudden it should work now. I saw a cool C2 demo that was done using Android Accessibility API. That being said, it wasn't covert at all. Yeah, they're usually not. So Ali, your phone already does like the reboots every night? That's interesting. Mine doesn't do that. I have to go manually do it. Let's see. Have you heard of the TME memory encryption? I'm working on it for work to prevent cold boot ransomware kits. I have not seen the TME memory encryption, Sin. TME memory. Oh, total memory encryption. I was like, what is TME? Yeah. That's pretty interesting. Like something was just downloaded to my phone and I didn't do anything. Was it like an application that got downloaded to your phone, Ali? Is that a Proton mail? Sure, or F sure. No, this was actually from one of my old companies. I want to see it. It says, dance like nobody's watching, encrypt like everyone is. Oh, this particular song. I don't know what this particular song is. I mean, the Heartbound soundtrack is up. You could just go blast through real quick, but it has like 120 tracks on it. But I heard my Bluetooth earphone was my name. Yeah, you don't have any, Ali, do you have any of the smart assistants turned on, whether it's like Google or Siri? The picture, okay, so Ali, the picture of the hooded figure was that was the alert for Gumby following. That wasn't that wasn't anything special. Hang on one sec. I'll show you. Just to put you at ease. Here, I'll tell you what. I'll bring this over here. So this is me monitoring the stream from the studio in the background here. Right? So if I come back about 2 minutes here. There we go. So what if that's what you saw right there? That's just the alert whenever, so it says Agent Gumby recruited, basically. He subscribed to the channel on Twitch. That's what happened. So don't be freaked out by that. That was literally just a Twitch alert. The whole stream is hacker themed. That back out. There's something funky actually going on the YouTube side, because it's saying that the viewers keeps dropping to 0. It's weird. Anyway, so to answer your question, Zen, so I have not actually messed with like full memory encryption. I think the idea is pretty cool. I wonder how much overhead it introduces into a system, though, to have to go through that encryption step. It'd be pretty cool. I have seen systems like this, like Intel talking about runtime memory encryption, actually dealt with a system that was using that. That was a pain in the ass. Never really got any good movement on it. Now, Ali, another question is, by chance, is your phone joined to like your company? For example, if your company uses Microsoft or Office 365 and you join your phone to it so that way you can read your Outlook emails, that could be something potentially there too, because then you're basically giving full administrative permissions to the people running that your company, and then they can push certain configurations onto your machine. I think one of those is that they can push applications. Same thing as a basic math algorithm, nothing different other than the amount. Yeah, but encryption, if you're using, I mean, it'd have to be symmetric encryption, but it's going to introduce some overhead to it, right? Because you're going to introduce, every time you're going to have like a memory read or write, you're going to have some kind of overhead in there, and those little bit of overheads do add up. Where did the 3 games come from? That I can't tell you. The chances are, though, I'm going to tell you this, the chances are your phone has not been compromised. I would just go delete those applications off your phone. Believe it or not, hacking phones is one of the harder things to do. If you don't mind me asking, what kind of phone do you have right now? Yeah, Gumby's right there with it too. All right, let's hop into this article real quick. Let's see. All right, so this was the Fortinet authentication bypass that basically gets you super admin on here. Let's see. How deep does he go in this? All right, so despite some insight gained from Arctic Wolf's work, little was shared in terms of actual vulnerability. I wonder if he actually weaponized this particular one. Let's see. What the heck is JS console? Here's what the heck JS console looks like. Oh, so it's literally just a console in JavaScript. Got it. Let's see. So it's WebSocket based. There was an advisory for this. So from here we can fetch patched and vulnerable versions, patch diff, and should be easy, right? Spoiler, it's not. Okay, so I wanted to read on this, but I think he's doing like a full vuln discovery breakdown. So what I'll do is I'll just link this to everybody because I really do like these. They don't stream well. As much as I hate to say that. So here, I'm going to drop a link to this. Don't let me interrupt your discussion over on YouTube because the two guys that are talking with you right now, Ali, are hella smart and they'll give you some good insight. All right, what about this? So he's saying break into kernel land and corrupt the NUMA nodes, affecting you basically control kernels and manage Affinity and run militia. Pretty much. Just send a text message to anyone asking NSO to see if they can use their Pegasus to install and remove the unwanted malware. Exactly. Did y'all hear about the story? It was a long time ago. A guy wanted to sue the NSA to see if they had a backup of his phone because he had lost, I think, a Bitcoin wallet. This was actually a really cool one. It's got a neat video associated to it, but it was how to basically bypass anti-debugging methods on iOS. But that's a kind of a deep one. I didn't want to. This is actually one I was looking forward to, and I had it on my list, and then I noticed it was on the blog here. Stealing HTTP-only cookies with the cookie sandwich technique. I've not read this yet. I try to save these for tonight for the most part, but this is a fun one. All right, so in this post, who wrote this? Was this from Zakar Fedotkin? Fedotkin? Let's say Fedotkin. So in this post, I'll introduce the cookie sandwich technique, which lets you bypass the HTTP-only flag on certain servers. Research follows on the bypassing WAFs with the phantom version cookie. Careful readers may have noticed the legacy cookies allow special characters to be included inside the cookie value. So in this post, we're going to abuse that. So the cookie sandwich technique manipulates how web servers parse and handle cookies when special characters are used within them. By cleverly placing quotes and legacy cookies, an attacker can cause the server to misinterpret the structure of the cookie header, potentially exposing the HTTP-only cookie to client-side scripts. So if you're not familiar, on a web server, there are certain security flags you can set on those cookie values. The cookies are constantly passed back and forth. They're appended to every message, pretty much no matter what. So this was a recognized vulnerability in a lot of systems. What would happen is an attacker would get JavaScript execution or cross-site scripting of some kind. Once they got that JavaScript execution, they could then use the JavaScript code to just go steal those cookies. A lot of times, probably 9 times out of 10, one of those cookies was an authentication token and would allow the user to the attacker to impersonate that user. So what did they do? They started building in these security flags around these cookies, one of them being HTTP only, meaning that cookie should be restricted from being accessed by the JavaScript engine running in the browser. But it looks like they have found a bypass for that in certain circumstances. Show me your cookies. But only at the chocolate chip. Let's see. How's it work? So because the Chrome browser doesn't support legacy cookies, it lets attackers create a cookie name that starts with a $sign, like $version. From JavaScript specifically. So furthermore, quotes could be placed inside any cookie value. The following code demonstrates how to create a cookie sandwich to steal a restricted cookie value. So we look at document cookie. We set version equal to 1. We have a document cookie for param1 is going to equal a double quotes and then start. So any cookie inside the sandwich will be placed into param1 value server side. Oh, that's beautiful. Okay. All right. That's hilarious. So literally what he did is created this one, and then anything that happens to be in the middle there is going to be assigned basically as part of param1 in here. There's his open quote, there's his ending quote. Oh god, that's funny. So the cookie header in the request response might appear like this. So set cookie param1 equals this double quote, and then it looks like all of this is part of the same string. Get that? Uh, hey Dante, what's up, dude? The HTTP only flag, my worst enemy. Right now, my worst enemy is Kubernetes access permissions. Let's see. So a little reminder of how Apache Tomcat processes cookie headers. Let's see. The parser handles both these RFC standards, defaulting to legacy parsing logic if a string starts with a special version value. So this looks like primarily it's going to affect Tomcat, or anything using Tomcat. So if a cookie value starts with a double quote, it'll continue reading until the next unescaped double quote char is read. It will also unescape any character starting with a backslash. So if the application improperly reflects the parameter one cookie in the response, or it does not have the HTTP only attribute, the entire cookie string, including any of the HTTP only session cookies sent by the browser that are between the two malicious parameters, can be exposed. Oh, that's funny. All right, so what is this? Real world example. So analytics often employ cookies and URL parameters to monitor user actions and rarely validate the tracking ID. This makes them a perfect target for the cookie sandwich attack. Typically, when a user first visits a site, the server creates a random string for visitor ID and stores the cookie. This visitor ID is then shown on the web page for the analytics. For example, this case, he set it to dead beef. This scenario creates a vulnerability if an attacker can access the web page contents, perhaps through oops request with credentials or a cross-site scripting attack from the same origin, and they can bypass the HTTP only cookie flag, exposing sensitive information. Or steal a PHP session ID. Good lord, that's awesome. So, I think that's about covers it in here, but this is such a funny exploit. Literally, this was the entire exploit right here. You have two cookies here. You do a start, you do an end with a double quote, bam, that's it. And I love the name too, the cookie sandwich. Who doesn't like a good cookie sandwich? That's too funny. Let's see here. We got Tigreal and Gumby just like providing offhand tech support. You guys rock. Let's see here. What's going on with this system over here? I think YouTube's having a yeah, YouTube is like just having an absolute bitch fit over here. Hang on 1 second. Let me check something. Yeah, I can see the stream is still up and active. I know it's still alive. Their analytics are just dumb right now. Alright, let's see, what is this? Magic packets and where to find them. Take a look at this one real quick. Depends on how deep they go on this one. Yeah, this one, it's another deep, really deep technical one. I think we'll bypass that one. Actually, I want to take a look at this one too. So, zero-click de-anonymization attack targeting Signal, Discord, and hundreds of other platforms. So, using a global CDN's cache to narrow down a user's physical location as they load content. Oh, actually, I saw this one. Okay. Oh, this is from HackerMon. Yeah. I've seen him do some other stuff before. Good show. Oh, your phone was a Samsung doing the same thing, Gumby? Gotcha. And that's actually why I don't really stick to Samsung anymore, because they wanted a little bit too much control. They have some really good security around their stuff with the crap, I don't think they call it the Enclave. No, I think I'm mixing terms here. I forget what it was called. Basically, I had a company come to me and they wanted me to pen test this thing. And I'm like, you want me to go find an O-Day in an application that is trusted by many, many high-up government organizations, and you think I'm going to go find it in the 2 weeks of time you want to pay for? That's not going to happen. Not only do I suck at mobile application testing, You're looking at something that's already been like used and abused a lot. Let's see. So what does he say here? 3 months ago, I discovered a unique zero-click de-anonymization attack that allows an attacker to grab the location of any target within a 250-mile radius. So with a vulnerable app installed on a target's phone or as a background application on their laptop, attacker can send a malicious payload and de-anonymize you within seconds, and you wouldn't even know. That's a bold claim. So I'm publishing this write-up and research as a warning, especially for journalists, activists, and hackers. Hundreds of applications are vulnerable, including some of the most popular like Signal, Discord, Twitter X, and others. Let's see. Cloudflare is easily the most popular CDN on the market. It beats out the competitors such as Security, Amazon CloudFront, Akamai, and Fastly. In 2019, a major Cloudflare outage knocked out most of the internet for over 30 minutes. Yeah, funny when that happens. So one of Cloudflare's most useful features is caching. Cloudflare's cache stores copies of frequently accessed content, such as everything, basically, in a data center, reducing the server load and improving website performance. So when a device sends a request for a resource that can be cached, Cloudflare retrieves the resource from its local data storage, if available. Otherwise, it fetches the resource from the origin server, caches it, and then returns it. By default, some extensions are automatically cached, but site operators can also configure new caching rules. Cloudflare has a global presence with hundreds of data centers in 330 cities, 120 countries. An estimated 273% more data centers than Google. Wow, that's pretty good. So if Cloudflare, God, I can't talk tonight, stores cache data so close to users, could this be exploited to de-anonymize attacks on websites we don't control? Let's see. So the CF cache status can be hit or miss, and CF array includes the airport code for the closest airport to the data center that handles the request. So if we get a user's device to load a resource on a Cloudflare-backed site, causing it to be cached in their local data center, we can then enumerate all Cloudflare data centers to identify which one cached the resource. So this will provide an incredibly precise estimate to the user's location. Interesting. I like where he's going with this. So there's a major hurdle, though, and that's I had to get through before I could test this theory. You can't simply send an HTTP request to an individual data center. For security purposes, all Cloudflare IP ranges are strictly anycast. So all TCP connections open to their network are always handled by the nearest available data center to you. There's no way to ask a data center in Canada to handle your request if you live in the US. So after doing some research, though, I found a forum post from a community member showing exactly how to do this. The author showed a bug he found to send requests to specific Cloudflare data centers with Cloudflare workers. Oh, okay. That's a good idea. Hey, Ace, thanks for coming online, man. Welcome to the Hacker Dome. I'm still not 100% sure of the specifics of this bug, but using an IP range used internally by Cloudflare Warp, which is their VPN client, we could ask a certain data center to handle HTTP requests. Normally, the IP range blocked inbound connections from external IP addresses, but requests sent from the workers could bypass this since the connection would originate from inside Cloudflare's own network. So I spent a few minutes reading the post and quickly spinned up a tool called Cloudflare Teleport. So Teleport is a proxy powered by Cloudflare workers that redirects HTTP requests to specific data centers. Let's see. So for example, you send this, that would proxy a GET request to this particular Cloudflare. This would go specifically to the Seattle data center. So Cloudflare would end up completely patching this bug a few months later, making the tool obsolete. More on that later, though. I do love the more on that later. So as soon as Cloudflare Teleport tool was completed, I was able to confirm my theory. I coded a simple CLI program that would send a GET request to a specific URL and list all data centers that had resources cached and its age. That's pretty cool. It even tells you what the ages of it. Nice. Oh yeah, there's the age right there. Bam. So it's just a simple static image of the logo. That was the quickest site I could find. Let's see what else. Namecheap had configured their cache age extremely low, 5 minutes, but I was able to see every data center
that had cached on their site's favicon in the last 5 minutes. Ooh. All right, so real-world application for Signal. Signal, an open-source encrypted messaging service used widely by journalists and activists for its privacy features internally. The app utilizes two CDNs for serving content. CDN-signal.org, which is Cloudflare, for profile avatars, and CDN2.signal.org, which is powered by Cloudflare also, for message attachments. So when the user sends an attachment, like an image on Signal, it's uploaded to CDN2. Once the recipient opens the conversation on their device, automatically downloads the attachment. Since Cloudflare caching is enabled for these URLs, an attacker can use the cache geolocation method to pinpoint the recipient's location. Pinpoint is an extreme overuse of that term. You're getting them to within a relative geographical location. Narrows it down, but it's very far from a pinpoint. If it came back with saying they live at 123 Main Street, that would be a pinpoint. Or if it came back saying here's their current GPS coordinates, that would be a pinpoint. What you have is a pancake point. Let's see. All right, so the attachments path is configured to cache responses with Cloudflare. This means once a user's device automatically downloads an attachment, it's possible for an attacker to run a cache geolocation attack to find out which local data center they're using. Kind of like how law enforcement will track mobile devices through cell towers. That's a pretty good analogy. Very cool. I like how this is working. Okay. Let's see. So after the target opens the conversation, which is you can verify by the read receipt, their device should download the attachment, which in turn causes Cloudflare to cache the file in a local data center. So I ran the attack on myself, used the CLI tool I mentioned earlier. In the attachment, I found the local data center I had attached to, which in this case looked like it was New Jersey. Very cool. That actually is pretty neat. So it's not as impactful as I was initially led to believe, but it's a very novel approach to the problem. I like it. I'm glad to hear that Cloudflare did address it. Anything that supports requests to the nearest edge location work like that too, no? JW, they would, except you got to have a way to query it. So if you don't have a way to query the data center, that's what he's talking about here. Hang on, let's diagram this since I got the iPad fixed again. So what he's saying here is, let's say we've got an attacker and we've got a victim over here, and then we've got a smattering of data centers, right? So what happens? He's going to send an attachment, in this case over Signal. That attachment is actually not going to flow directly through them. It's actually going to flow through the CDNs here. And it's going to be propagated to one of these, right? Actually, that's a bad example. Let me back this up. Back that ass up. So what's going to happen is when we send this and they go to retrieve it, it's going to be cached from one of these. So what he's saying is he can pinpoint the closest data center to that user. Yeah, since JW is caught in ad land, we'll get back to this in just a second. And I still see my guys Tigrill over there and Gumby providing tech support. Y'all are awesome. Thank y'all for helping out. All right, but yeah, this is pretty cool. I like the way this is working. Actually, I think I can, while the ads are running, I can come up with a better diagram. Let's redo some of this here. Add up a little bit. Okay. Fix that up right here. There we go. We'll do it like this. Then we'll wait for the ads to come back. We've got 15 seconds left, and then I'll do this. Oh, you're back from ads already. Okay. Timer said there were still 10 seconds on it. All right, so here's what happens, right? So attacker is going to send a message over to the victim, right? So it goes over to this guy, and then once this user tries to go pull it, they're going to pull it because this is being sent as an anycast, right? Which means, in theory, the data center they're going to hit is the one that is closest to them. So they're going to pull this from here. This is actually going to then request it from that data center from the original server, and then it's going to cache it right here. So then by querying each one of these, you know, it's like, hey, do you have it? Do you have it? Do you have it? Bam, bam, bam. That's how he was able to figure out which one it was. This part right here, this question mark, should not have worked, is what he was saying. What he found out is he could make this query if he was on the Cloudflare CDN, Cloudflare VPN. I can't write. Cloudflare VPN, right? So if he's on the Cloudflare VPN, he could go make these queries to these individual nodes. By default, you wouldn't be able to do that because all of these nodes were using this anycast request over here. So there was a little bit of a gotcha to this. And then, but you were saying, let's see, generated a unique URL for the specific client. When the target opens the client, their origin will answer with the random content, and this will be cached for the first given client. Right. So you still run into the problem of you got to know where it's being queried from. I mean, this is a really cool example of how to figure out where the stuff was coming from in the first place. So a common method that people would use to try and de-anonymize somebody, right, is they would do the same thing. So we have our attacker and our victim over here, right? And then what they would do is, let's say we've got a web server right here. So on the web server, you host something, right? You host a cat picture. And then what you do is you send the victim a link, to cat.jpg, whatever the address there is. They go then query it from here. And then you check your logs to see who got cat.jpg, right? And then now you're going to be able to get their IP address. Now, this gets defeated if you're using things like a VPN, right? So if you're using a VPN, it's going to defeat that initially. But this is one of the ways people would originally go through and try to de-anonymize this stuff. Now, what's cool about this, though, is he's not sending a URL, though. He was actually sending an attachment. In Signal. That's how he was doing it there. I think he's got an example for Discord, too. Yeah, we'll read through this one, too, because this one looks really cool. Yeah. Let's see what he did with Discord on here. So another app I found vulnerable to this type of attack is Discord. Discord's a free app that allows users to communicate with each other through text, voice, and video, yada yada. The one-click aspect is very simple and fairly similar to Signal. I would say the impact is even wider with Discord, though. Discord allows Nitro users to use custom emojis in a variety of places. Messages, user presence, channels, etc. Custom emojis are loaded from Discord CDN and are configured to be cached on Cloudflare. So an attacker can use the same de-anonymization attack with Signal to de-anonymize users. So instead of sending an attachment in Discord, an attacker can display a custom emoji in their user status and simply wait for the target to open their profile and run a de-anonymization attack. That's a little less likely. I'd say the better thing is you send them like a DM with your custom emoji. That would probably be the better way to do that. Let's see. I disclosed the entire HackerOne report I sent to Discord, which has specific details, but I want to focus on the zero-click aspect here. In Discord, mobile push notifications are sent for a variety of events, not just messages received like Signal. So, for example, sending a friend request to a Discord user triggers a push notification to the device. Even if the user is active on Discord, friend request notifications are sent to the user's mobile device. So how would a de-anonymization attack be used with a friend request notification? Let's take a look. Well, basically just timing, because the same thing's going to happen. The avatar image is going to get referenced, and then it's going to get cached over in the nearest node. But this whole thing came down to he found a way to break a little bit of the security boundary that they had there. All those caching nodes were running us anycast, so you couldn't just reach out to it directly. He found a way to reach to it directly and ask each one what their status was of the caching by being on the Cloudflare VPN. That was the kicker to it. So that's what it sounds like. That's what Cloudflare fixed, is they made it to where you couldn't have it in there. Oh, that's funny. Oh wait, hold on. What is this? All right. So I'm very familiar with Discord's API, and I realized I could automate everything for 0-click, so I did it. Introducing GeoGuessr. So this is a private Discord bot with a single command that takes a username, runs an attack with the steps mentioned earlier, and returns the results entirely through Discord. So when the command is called, it uses my account credentials to access the Discord user API, changes the user avatar to a randomly generated image to randomize the hash, and sends a friend request to the user specified. Finally, it uses private API based in the Cloudflare Teleport CLI to run the same cache enumeration attack and displays the results directly on Discord, all in less than 30 seconds. So to show the extent of the attack, one of the first users I tried was on Discord's CTO. Ooh, that's ballsy. Let's look at what he did here in this image. So he gives him his username. Wish I could pause this, but it's some kind of... That's kind of neat, though. It seemed to pinpoint him somewhere around DFW. Which is my hometown. Yeah. So did he get any kind of a bounty for this? I hope so. Cloudflare reopened the old report, resolved it, awarded a $200 bounty for my report. They could have done better than that. Alright. That was actually more cool than I had expected it to be, because I saw that, and if I had seen it was from Hacker Mondev, I would have paid more attention to it. But when I first saw it, I'm like, okay, somebody's claiming they've got end-of-the-world exploit for de-anonymizing people. I didn't pay much attention, and that was my own mistake. Let's see. What's next on here? Oh, dude, this one was pretty bad. MasterCard DNS error went unnoticed for years. A one-letter mistake. This is from our favorite doxer, Mr. Krebs. All right. Payment card giant MasterCard just fixed a glaring error in the domain name server settings that could have allowed anyone to intercept and divert internet traffic for the company by registering an unused domain name. The misconfiguration persisted for nearly 5 years until a security researcher spent $300 to register the domain and prevent it from being grabbed by criminals. Man, I hope MasterCard gave him a good bounty on that, because that's pretty damn bad. So from June 30th of 2020 until January 14th of 2025, so just a week ago, one of the core internet servers that MasterCard uses to direct traffic for portions of the MasterCard.com network was misnamed. MasterCard.com relies on 5 shared DNS servers at the infrastructure provider Akamai. All the Akamai DNS servers for the MasterCard uses are supposed to end in akamai.net. One of them was misconfigured to rely on akamai.ni. We are the DNS servers who say ni. This tiny but potentially critical typo was discovered recently by Felipe Catergli. I apologize, Philip, if you're watching and I butchered your name. Chances are you're not, but the apology is preemptive. Founder of the security consultancy Cyrlis? Mr. Cat, that's what I'm going to call him for now because I can't say his name, said he guessed that nobody had yet registered the domain akum.ni, which is under the purview of the top-level domain authority of West African nation of Niger. Mr. Cat said it took $300 and nearly 3 months of waiting to secure the domain with the registrar in Niger. After enabling a DNS server, he noticed hundreds of thousands of DNS requests hitting the server each day from locations around the globe. Apparently, MasterCard wasn't the only organization that had fat-fingered a DNS entry to include akum.ni. Oh no. So he enabled an email server on the new domain. Mr. Cat likely would have received, if he had enabled an email server, he would likely receive wayward emails directly toward MasterCard.com and other affected domains. So if he had abused this access, he probably could have obtained an SSL certificate that were authorized to accept and relay web traffic. Man, this guy could have done some serious damage with that. He basically had a DNS man in the middle due to that typo. Let's see. So Mr. Cat received a request submitted through BugCrowd, a program that offers financial rewards. Message suggested that his public disclosure of the MasterCard DNS error via a post on LinkedIn was not aligned with the ethical security practices and passed on a request from MasterCard to have the post removed. Mr. Cat said while he does have an account on BugCrowd, he has never submitted anything through the BugCrowd program, and he reported this issue directly to MasterCard. Oh, that's funny. Let's see. So they disagreed on the assessment, had a little bit of a back and forth on LinkedIn. So the misconfigured DNS server Mr. Cat found involved the MasterCard subdomain az.mastercard.com. It is not clear exactly how the subdomain is used by MasterCard. However, their naming convention suggests the domains correspond to production servers at Azure. Probably. That was my guess. Mr. Cat said the domains all resolve to internet addresses at Microsoft. Don't be like MasterCard, Mr. Cat concluded in his LinkedIn post. Don't dismiss risk and don't let your marketing team handle security disclosures. Good call. One typo is all it takes, especially with the prevalence of different top-level domains now. Let's see. What else we got here? I'm not going to read this article because it's long, because I know Hot Knops and he does very in-depth stuff, but he's got a really cool post up on the SpectreOps site, Intra Connect Attack Tradecraft Part 2. So definitely go check out Part 1. He's got this new one up on Part 2 on the SpectreOps website. Especially if you're really into Azure attacks, which I'm going to be later this year. I've got it queued up. Let's see. Interesting. So this one is Windows Telephony Service. It's got some calling issues. There's a priv-esque in it. Post walks through exploitation provides a proof of concept. How deep is this exploitation? How deep are we going here? You see. Deep. You see here. Yeah. So we're going to bypass that one. Let's go look at the proof of concept. Really? Is that the exploit? Hold on. I guess. Let me go look at the article real fast here. So critical vulnerability found in the Windows telephony service, which can lead to elevation of privilege on effective systems. Exploit leverages a use after free in the free dialog instance. By manipulating the registry and attacker controls memory allocation to create fake object triggering a UAF, gain code execution. That's not necessarily a privilege escalation. That's more like a remote code execution. Unless I'm misunderstanding this. This is further chained with techniques to bypass mitigations like CFG and ultimately load a malicious DLL, escalating system privileges to system via the print spoofer. Oh, so how's he... I'm an idiot. I saw CPP and for some reason thought that was a PCAP. Let's see here. Well, he's got a pretty good proof of concept. It's a lot of deep C++ code that I'm not going to even try and grok on stream. Nope. I like the idea of exploit development. I feel like I don't want to devote a lot of time to it. I like to use the exploits other smart people find. What is this? susctl. Need an example of how difficult kernel programming can be? That's all you had to say. We're going to skip that one, because kernel programming is definitely outside my wheelhouse. Mostly working elf loader in Go. Huh, interesting, except it fails to capture output. Yeah. You don't need output, like if you're loading up a C2 agent, that's not such a bad deal. Oh, actually, this one I did want to cover. Abusing multicast poisoning for pre-authenticated Kerberos relay over HTTP. This came with some nice updates to Responder and Kerb Relay X. So a few years ago, James Forshaw discovered a technique allowing to perform Kerberos relaying over HTTP by abusing local name resolution poisoning. So in this article, we present the attack and propose a concrete implementation through the Responder and Kerb Relay X tools. Let's see. What does he talk about? Introduction. Yep. It'll be assumed that the reader has understanding of the standard Kerberos authentication flow. If that's not the case, you may be interested in the following article. Covers the subject. Good news is, if you're not, I am, so I can explain it to you. All right, so when it comes to Kerberos, the very last request in the authentication process, and the one that determines if a user is granted access, is the AP rec request. An AP rec is composed of two elements: a service ticket, which is encrypted using the secret of the target service. So that's the end of the process here. So you have I forget what the middle one's called. You have AS rec, AS response, and then ASP, I think, and then one other one. But then we also have, so we have the service ticket, and then we have the authenticator, which is a blob of data encrypted with the session key associated with that service ticket. Said session key was returned to the user by the KDC in the TGS rep. Oh, that's right. So we have the AS rec rep, the TGS rec rep, and then the AP rec rep. Rec rep. So when a service receives an AP rec, it'll decrypt the service ticket, extract the session key, and verify the authenticator. In case of success, access to the service is granted. That's the main thing we need to have here. Nothing inherently prevents relaying attacks targeting the AP rec request in the Kerberos protocol. So if an attacker is able to intercept a valid AP rec emitted by a legitimate client to a target service, it's possible to use it in order to authenticate to said target service as the client. It's still important to note, similarly to an NTLM relay, AP rec relaying will only work if the target service does not enforce integrity requirements through signing. So if that's the case, authentication via relaying may succeed, but subsequent communications will fail since the attacker does not possess. Why is speaking so hard today? The attacker does not possess the session key necessary to sign the packets. So an additional challenge should be considered when relaying AP rec messages. AP rec contains a service ticket. This is encrypted with the secret of the target host specified for the SPN. In this case, they say if you try to connect to CIFS on ADO1 server 1, it's going to be encrypted with ADO1 server 1's Kerberos password, not Kerberos, their NTLM password that's stored in Active Directory. So he's got a nice little explanation here. Let's see what they do. So, first step, attacker tries to trick the victim into asking for a TGS for a particular SPN. The victim asks for a TGS for the SPM to the KDC. That's KDC, which is the domain controller. The victim constructs the AP rec from the TGS and sends it to the attacker instead of the legitimate host. The attacker uses the AP rec to authenticate to any service of the relaying target. Neat. So, quick refresher on Kerberos here. Did I just disconnect the iPad? I think I did because I bumped the freaking cable. Ah, piece of shit. Of course, as soon as I get it fixed, and then I want to draw something, then it's like, no, you bumped the cable. How dare you? Let's see if it'll start mirroring now. There we go. Alright, bring this. Get out of here. Alright, so quick refresher on Kerberos, right? So there's 3 parts here that we need to pay close attention to. So we're going to have our client, which is, let's say, the machine we're on. There's going to be the domain controller, also known as the KDC, the key distribution server, or key distribution central. I forget what it's called. Anyway, and then we have our target down here. So if we want to connect to it, the first thing we have to do is we got to make an AS rec, authentication service request, right? Request. There we go. And then we're going to get back an AS reply, authentication service reply. So this part right here gets us a TGT. It's basically just as good as having the password. If you have someone's TGT, you can impersonate them, no problem. So the next thing we're going to do is then actually we're going to send an a TGS rec. And as part of that, we're going to send the TGT with it. So we send the TGT, we send a request saying, hey, we want to go access the service over on this guy down here, what our target is. Domain controller validates everything, sends back a TGS response, and then with that, we get our TGS. So this is the actual ticket that we need to send to the server we're going to connect to. So then the next part is we send back an AP rec. And then we send that TGS as part of it. So once we have that, we're all good. And then it replies back with an AP response. AP response in here. And so when we send this, we also send the TGS here. Boop. Now the key is where all this stuff is encrypted with. So the TGT that we get back is encrypted with the domain controller's curb TGT account. It's a hidden account that only exists here, so we can't modify the TGT. Same thing with the TGS. So when we send back the TGT, the account it uses is KRB TGT, right? KRB TGT. So that's its hidden account. It decrypts it with that curb TGT password, says it's good, and then sends craps. God, I can't talk tonight. It crafts the TGS. The TGS, though, gets encrypted with our target's password. So we get it, we can't modify it, but when we send it to the target, he knows his own password, he can decrypt it, and he can validate it. Bam. So it's all symmetric encryption through this whole thing. It's just where we use the keys. So we encode this with our secret, the DC decodes it with our secret, says it's good, encrypts that TGT with its own secret, sends it back, decodes it with its own secret, encrypts it with the target secret, sends it down to it, and then basically this is just an acknowledgement down here, the AP rec. So knowing all this, what they're saying is if there's some security concerns missing, this AP rec could actually be intercepted right here. And that's what they're showing in this diagram. So the AP rec from the TGS gets sent over to it. Just like that. Let's see how they're doing with this. All right, so you may notice we replaced the class part of the SPN with XXX, illustration above. That's fine. Okay, so there's currently 2 documented techniques implemented in public tools to perform Kerberos relaying. So you can Kerberos relay over DNS. First one takes advantage of the way DNS secure dynamic updates work in Active Directory. Oh, I didn't know Dirk Jen came up with that one. That's cool. This is part of MIDM 6. Kerberos relaying over SMB. The second trick was discovered by James Forshaw and abuses the way SMB clients construct SPNs when asking for a service ticket. Several implementations exist for this in Kerb Relay X. So now here's the kicker though, exploiting multicast poisoning to perform Kerberos relaying over HTTP. So the research published by James Forshaw in 2021 mentioned another Kerberos relaying vector that as far as we know, is not currently implemented in Active Directory offensive tool. So the theory. Forshaw analyzed the behavior of various HTTP clients when performing Kerberos authentication, including browsers, WebDev, and .NET. So yeah, .NET has its own kind of like browser for doing HTTP authentication. I missed that. Can you run through it again? No, I cannot. You can go rewatch the replay, Gumby. Go catch the replay on YouTube. I know you know where the YouTube channel is, bro. Just saw you over there. Damn, it's 9:30 already. Time's going by fast. Okay, so these clients all share the same interesting quirk. So when a web server asks for Kerberos authentication, they'll not use the destination URL in order to determine the SPN for the service ticket, but rather the answer name of the DNS response. Wait, what is this saying? They'll not use the destination URL in order to determine the SPN for which an ST should be retrieved, but rather the answer name of the DNS response. So under normal circumstances, these two should coincide. For instance, if a user browses to internal server/login, The HTTP client should perform a DNS query for internal server, and the response should return an answer name for internal server. If the web server then asks for Kerberos authentication, the HTTP client will ask for a service ticket for HTTP/internal server. Okay, and to construct the AP rec. But what if an attacker was somehow able to manipulate the DNS response returned to an HTTP client? They could construct a DNS response with the relay target as the answer name. Oh wait, actually yes, I did read through this. This was really cool. So a record pointing to their machine. So as a result, the HTTP client would ask for a service ticket for the relay target, construct an AP rec, but send it to the attacker machine. Yeah. Yeah. I said it because it was a tongue twister. Oh, okay. I was like, repeat that. No. I see now. So this scenario could be achieved by abusing the LLMNR protocol, which, by the way, I tell all my clients to turn that shit on. Multicast name it's a LLMNR. It stands for Link Local Multicast Name Resolution. That's what that stands for. I sort of start calling it something funny. What else could we call that instead of LLMNR? Because that's too much to say. Link Local Multicast Name Resolution is too much to say. I'm going to start calling it Lemner. Lemner. Yeah, there we go. So Lemner is a multicast name resolution protocol. Windows client will first attempt to resolve host names via standard DNS before falling back to Lemner. Since the resolution protocol is multicast, an attacker could provide name resolution responses to any client in the multicast range that fail to resolve the host name through standard DNS. So the attack described by Forshaw works like this. An attacker sets up a Lemner poisoner on the multicast range. HTTP client on the multicast range fails to resolve the host name. This can happen because of a typo in a browser or misconfiguration, but can also be triggered by an attacker via WebDAV coercion. The Lemner poisoner indicates the host name resolves to the attacker machine. If the Lemner response, or in the Lemner response, the answer name differs from the query and corresponds to an arbitrary relay target. So the victim performs the request on the attacker web server, which requires Kerberos authentication. The victim asks for a service ticket with the SPN to the relay target, sends the resulting AP rec to the attacker web server. Nice. Okay. So let's examine this real fast here. So, good to be back in some Windows tradecraft. I've been stuck in everything else for a while. So what they're saying is, let's say we've got an attacker box right here, right? An attacker box, we'll put some horns on it, right? This is our little evil attacker. So what they're saying is, we can use DNS to do a little bit of sleight of hand, saying, hey, we're going to point to the server that we want to access, but at the same time, the responses come to me. So this AP rec, essentially here, do this in purple, gets hijacked and then gets sent to the attacker instead. That's what they're doing here. They're saying, I want to access the target server, but I'm going to intercept that. Little Luke missed November rain. Hey guys, we'll chill out for just a minute. Actually, I need to go run to the bathroom, so I'll be right back, and then we'll hit some more on this article. But this is what's happening right here. This is basically, this response is coming to the attacker instead. So, be right back. All right, y'all, I'm back. Also, I had to check on my puppy because the big dummy decided to eat a chicken bone that got dropped at the dinner table tonight. Got to keep a close eye on her now. All right, let's see what else he's talking about here. So let's look at this again real quick. So in the Lambda response, the answer name differs from the query and corresponds to an arbitrary relay target. I want to see like a concrete example of this and how they work on it. Let's see. So implementation. So when it comes to multicast poisoning, responder is the go-to offensive tool, which is why to implement the attack described, we submitted a pull request that adds the argument to respond with the TAC-in flag. Said argument allows specifying an arbitrary answer name to be returned in the Lambda response. Regarding the relaying part of the received AP rec, we decided to use the great curb relay X tool. So we submitted a pull request that adds basic logic into curb relay X's HTTP server. So let's consider an attack in the corp.com domain. So an attacker has a Linux machine sitting on .16 in the same multicast range as AD01 workstation 1. So there's a domain, PKI server within the web enrollment environment with the web enrollment endpoint enabled, which is their PKI server. So as a security mechanism, the PKI disabled NTLM authentication on its web enrollment endpoint. In addition, the attacker is unauthenticated. So let's perform a classical escalation 8 attack, but by relaying Kerberos authentication over HTTP. So the first example will demonstrate the attack by opportunistically responding to a failed name resolution, while the second will rely on WebDAV authentication core. Very nice. Very nice. Let's see. So the opportunistic one. So the attacker runs responder with the TAC-in flag, indicating that the Lambda response should return an answer corresponding to AD01 PKI. Okay? Very cool. By the way, if you're not familiar with responder intimately, what responder does is it has two portions to it. Typically, everyone's really interested in the first portion, which is the poisoners. So the poisoners are designed to solicit traffic over to they're designed to solicit traffic to your target, typically the machine running responder. The other half is the servers. The servers are strictly designed for capturing either a password or a password hash. Well, there's better ways we can do that, and that's when we bring in another tool, Curb Relay X. And what we do is we disable all the servers in responder, and we just let the Curb Relay X program handle the servers on it. And then once we have that going, we can do all sorts of interesting relaying attacks with it. No, Allie, you're fine. I was just letting you and Tigrill have a nice conversation over there. I didn't want to interject. I didn't want to derail it. No, this is a total learning environment, Allie. You can ask anyone. Most people are usually chatting over on Twitch, but I don't ignore what's going on over on YouTube. It's just a little slower with that delay. But I have absolutely zero issues with taking very hard left and right turns into new topics that people are asking about in chat. That's just the way I've always just done the stream. That's the way I like handling it. Let's see. Okay, so now we've got responder set up. We're using the special TAC-in option, saying that answer name corresponding to AD01 PKI. So the server we want to relay for, right? So let's assume that an HTTP client on AD01 workstation 1 machine fails to resolve a host name, for instance, because a user made a typo in the URL entered in the browser. So a poisoned Lambda response will be served to the client with AD01 PKI answer name. The following logs are what appear to responder. So we poisoned an answer to this FE80 address. Spoofed answer was set to ADPK01. That's funny. They literally made it typo for name typo. So at this point, the HTTP client will be redirected to the attacker's machine, on which Curb Relay X instance is running. Kerberos authentication will be required. The HTTP client will ask for an HTTP AD01 PKI service ticket, and then it will send our web request to the with the corresponding AP rec, which will relay in order to obtain a certificate on PKI. Very nice. Very nice. Okay. So it shows in the logs here of the example, received a connection from the workstation, prompting for authentication. Client requested path AA. Let's see. The server returned a status code of 200, treating it as a successful login. Generates a CSR. And then we have a certificate. Oh. By the way, CSR, I think, is a cert signing request in this context. All right, and then we got a nice little Wireshark capture of the Lambda response returned from the HTTP client. Let's see. So we see the LLMNR. Answer was AD01 PKI type. But the IP address is .16 in here. And .16 was, in this example, where was .16? .16 was our attacker machine. So even though we give it the correct host name of like what we want to attack, we give it the IP address of us in here. Bam. Very nice. All right, now this is actually the really killer one. I want to see this. WebDAV auth coercion. And yeah, by the way, Gumby, Responder is a really great tool. It's loud as hell, but it is really neat. Let's see. So the very same exploitation scenario works with WebDAV authentication coercion. So this allows an attacker to target specific hosts in the multicast range without relying on typos or misconfigurations, but requires authentication and an active web client service. So the following screenshot uses Petit Patam, the little hippo, to trigger a WebDAV request from Workstation 1 machine to a non-existent hostname. Responder returns a Lambda response spoofing the answerer and name, and then Curb RelayX handles the relaying. Oh, that's very nice. Very cool. Hang on, I gotta send this to a buddy real fast. This is sweet. Ghost Bugs, thanks for coming online, man. Welcome in. Doing the hacker news. Having a good time. Okay. That's pretty neat. Hold on. So what are the limitations here? That's what we also got to know. Main advantage of the presented relaying technique is that it can potentially perform without authentication via multicast poisoning. It can thus represent a viable alternative to Kerberos relaying over DNS, such as with MIDM6. So while relaying Kerberos over SMB is more reliable, it can potentially target arbitrary machines outside the multicast range. It still requires authentication, either to add a DNS record containing the credential target information structure, or at least to coerce a machine into trying to reach a hostname containing that structure. Interesting. I'm gonna have to try and spin this up in the lab and mess with it. One final restriction is common to all Kerberos relaying vectors and related services that can be actually be targeted when performing such an attack. Pen testers that are used to exploit NTLM relaying could be tempted to think that relaying Kerberos over HTTP would open up the same opportunities regarding relaying targets. For instance, by allowing to relay authentication data to services that by default do not require integrity mechanisms, and that only implement them if the client enables it, which is most notably the case of LDAP. This is unfortunately not the case when the negotiate security package is used to perform Kerberos authentication. The resulting AP rec will by default enable integrity protections, directly using the Kerberos security package. Nope. This means that the integrity mechanism will be added automatically. Ripperoni. So when it comes to Kerberos authentication, HTTP clients are considered less permissive than when performing NTLM authentication. Vast majority of the clients will refuse to downgrade the security package to plain text and will only perform authentication through the negotiate package, meaning the integrity checks will be automatically enabled. Forshaw identified some exceptions such as .NET's 4.8 and 5.0, which accept downgrades to plain Kerberos. Oh, okay. I said plain text earlier. That was plain Kerberos instead of the integrity version of Kerberos. All right, let's wrap this up. This concretely means that most of the time, clients performing Kerberos authentication will support integrity checking. In these conditions, only services that actually do not support signing and sealing can be targeted. This is mainly the case of HTTP services. In Active Directory, some standard high-value HTTP services that constitute pertinent targets for Kerberos relaying include ADCS and SCCM. Yeah. All right, that's pretty cool. I like that. It's cool to see that they added those extra functionality in there too. Yeah, what is the latest version of .NET? Yeah, they're actually all the way up to .NET 9, I guess. Which has AI integration. Of course it does. Of course. All right, let's see here. That was pretty cool. I like that idea. I have to go mess with that. Let's see. Clone to leak. Your Git credentials belong to us. A number of issues with Git and Git tools related to text parsing and new line injection. Let's take a brief look at this one. This looks like it is a long... Let's just read the TLDR. So Git implements a protocol called Git Credential Protocol to retrieve credentials from a credential helper. The credential helper is a program that stores and provides credentials for Git. Some examples of the credential helper are Git Credential Store, Git Credential WinStore, and Git Credential OSX Keychain. Because of improper handling of messages, many projects were vulnerable to credential leakage in various ways. Interesting. All I want to know is, where do I find the leaked credentials? That's all I wanted. Basically, it has to do with the fact that nobody can freaking decide on what a new line should be. Should it be a line feed? Should it be a new character? Alright, let's look at tools and exploits. WinVisor, hypervisor-based emulator for Windows x64 user mode executables using Windows Hypervisor Platform API. I saw this, but I haven't read up on it yet. What did they do with this one? So in Windows 10, Microsoft introduced the Windows Hypervisor Platform API. The API exposes Microsoft's built-in hypervisor functionality to user mode Windows applications. In 2024, the author used this API to create a personal project, a 16-bit MS-DOS emulator called DOSVisor. Hey Trix, thanks for coming online. Welcome in. So as mentioned in the release notes, there's always been plans to take this concept a bit further and to emulate Windows applications. Elastic provides Research Week twice per year for staff to work on personal projects, providing a great opportunity to begin working on this project. So this project will be unimaginatively named WinVisor, inspired by DOSVisor. Very cool. So despite having been available for 6 years, it seems that the WHP API hasn't been used in many public projects other than complex code bases like QEMU and VirtualBox. One other notable project is Simpilator, lightweight Windows user mode emulator that also utilizes the WHP API. So this project has the same goal as WinVisor, although the approach and implementation are quite different. WinVisor project aims to automate as much as possible and support simple executables. Okay. Let's look. So let's actually look at their code here. Oh, this is from x86 Matthew. Yeah, we've seen a lot of his stuff pop up here. Let's see. So WinVisor has some limitations in its current form. The biggest one being that it currently only supports virtualizing a single thread. Other examples are described in further detail below. Let's see. It still works with many executables. It's been tested successfully. It's been tested successfully against built-in Windows executables like Command and Ping, and even GUI applications such as MS Paint and Notepad. All these only run partially virtualized, as described later. Yeah, I didn't know there was that much. I didn't know they were up to .NET 9 either, Gumby. Seems like forever ago. So I'm still trying to find machines that have .NET 3.5 on them that I can use. Was it 3.5? I think it was 3.5. Let's see. So he's got a virtual CPU set up. Very cool. But it's definitely interesting. It looks like it's still a pretty big work in progress, though. I don't readily see a good use case for it just yet. Let's see. Oh, by the way, there was a 7-zip mark of the web bypass. This is pretty cool. This allows remote attackers to bypass the mark of the web protection mechanism on affected installations of 7-zip. User interaction is required to exploit this vulnerability, and the target must visit a malicious page or open the malicious file. So if you're not familiar with the mark of the web, what happens is when you download something through your browser and it gets put onto your computer, Windows throws a little tag on it. And it does it in something called an alternate data stream. Don't worry about that part. Just know that that tag is there and it says, hey, this damn thing was downloaded from the internet and should not be trusted. And so instantly it gets basically marked as suspicious by the operating system. So if you can find some way that you can download something and bypass the mark of the web, it's a big deal, especially if you're trying to maybe send a malicious payload that you don't want being flagged as suspicious because it was downloaded from the internet. Let's see. Vulnerable versions. Actually, let's look at this. The specific flaw exists within the handling of archive files. When extracting files from a crafted archive that bears the mark of the web, 7-zip does not propagate the mark of the web to the extracted files. So an attacker can leverage this vulnerability to execute arbitrary code in the context of the current user. Very cool. Very cute. The methodology is to double compress the executable, which triggers the vulnerability. Actually, yeah, I had a buddy telling me about this. I didn't know that's what this really was. I think they were doing it in 7-zip files, though, not just zip files. Wait, did he say that this is only in 7-zip or is it in zip files? So this exists when handling archive files. When extracted files from a crafted archive that bears the mark of the web, 7-zip does not propagate. So I think they just use 7-zip as an example. I think it might work with zip files as well. See, so if you're used to seeing this blue smart screen pop up happen here, right, that's the mark of the web. The reason that smart screen is coming up is because that mark of the web is triggered. So up here in this example, though, it looks like, so he got the item loader 7-zip, got the zone identifier, it's not showing it. Here's his example. So he compresses that to a 7-zip file, saves it, compresses it to a 7-zip file. And once he gets to the loader, oh wait, he doesn't. That's showing it here. Oh, here's the example for the vulnerable version. I was like, where's the vulnerable version? Bam. Then it runs. Pop and calc, ultra elite. So this was the example of the patched version versus the unpatched. So the patched version, you get smart screen. The unpatched version, you get popped with calc, and now you're owned forever. You just have got to throw your computer in the dumpster. It's permanently forever. If you see that, stop what you were doing. If you see the smart screen. Yeah. What is this? Draugr. Beacon object file with synthetic stack frames. Oh. What do we got here? This is a beacon object template to easily perform synthetic stack frames in a beacon object file. Spoofer is based on the LoadSun run. For each API call, a gadget is randomly used inside kernel-based DLL. Interesting. So this is an example to use the Draugr template with a beacon object file to perform remote process injection. Interesting. I can't think of Draugrs, though, without thinking of Skyrim, honestly. That's pretty cool. I'm going to save this. Start that. Let's put this into... Let's see. We'll put this into Maldev and Red Team. Yes, yes. They go in there. All right, what do we got this? Simple proof of concept for a C2 that leverages GitHub repositories for executing commands through issues. That's funny. Let's see. Cobalt Strike reflective loader with synthetic stack frame. Interesting. Speed loader. Rust template library for implementing your own cough loader. I'm good there. Slinger. Impacket light CLI tool that combines many useful Impacket functions using a single session. Let's take a look at that one. That sounds that sounds like it would be handy. I see Jogger and it makes me think of the dive rigs that SEALs use. I hadn't thought about that. So what is this? What are they doing here? Slinger is a versatile tool designed for advanced network interactions and manipulations with a focus on the SMB protocol. Offers a range of functionalities for interacting with remote systems, including managed schedule tasks, handling Windows registry operations, service management, and gathering system information, all in a single session. Slinger is built on the Impacket framework and should offer a similar feel to Impacket functions. Hey, Bellis. So this is the Bad Sector Labs blog. It actually comes out on Mondays, but I can't stream on Monday nights because of family reasons, so I get to it on Tuesdays. Let's see. Hey, no worries. All right, let's take a look here. So what are they attempting to accomplish with this? Manage schedule tasks by creating, deleting, running, registry management, service control, wrapper commands. See if I can get the demo up here. Blow this up. I don't want to go full screen. I just want to go bigger. Stop. You scale everything on the damn website except your video. Alright, so he runs Slinger. It's prompting for the administrator password, so I guess that's what we're going to be using. Oh, okay, so he loads up Slinger, provides a host to target, and what user, which is admin, and he gives it the admin password. We get a session going. He's listing out the services. I apologize, I cannot make this any bigger. That's what he said. I mean, it looks like a very interesting little project. I just don't know. I'm not sure quite where I would use it yet. Enum info. Load some plugins. Get some interesting things. I'd have to go see what kind of telltale marks you'd get from this. What kind of tool marks you'd see in logging. Because a lot of times I try to actually use the built-in Windows tools to do things because they blend in so well with legitimate traffic. They don't stand out in weird ways like maybe Impacket does or some of the other beacon object files or the way C2s implement certain things. I mean, it's a very interesting idea. Just not quite sure where I would use it just yet. I like some of the idea. He's got the command line documentation. I think this is written in C. Yeah, what libraries is he using for this? Let me see. So it's using Impacket, Prompt Toolkit, PyCrypto, Setup Tools, Tabulate. Actually, yeah, so it's really just a wrapper around Impacket. Kind of reminds you of Cobalt Strike. Yeah, if Cobalt Strike had a nice, pretty CLI instead of the abomination of the Java interface that it has. Actually, you know what? I am gonna star this one because I'm gonna put it under. I might as well just go ahead and put that under Red Team because it is an interesting tool, and mostly I want to keep an eye on it. I'm gonna throw that into interesting repos as well. Let's see, what is this one? RPE loader. Use Python on Windows with full subdomain module support without installation. Okay with that. All right, last little thing here. New to me and miscellaneous. Authstager. Proof of concept tool that generates a custom Stager shellcode that authenticates to the Stager server using authentication token. Oh, very cool. The blog post explaining this tool was called Stage But Verify. Or Pwnecats. Yeah, it actually is it does remind me of Pwnecats. Let's see. Azure PostX framework. Let's see. Oh, this was previously called Azure Pwn. Okay, I think I saw this one. Let's see. Run Apex via IEX or import the PowerShell script. Actually, no, I take it back. I have not seen this one. This looks pretty neat. Got a nice little interactive menu here. Get some tokens. Okay. Handy. What's he doing in this one here? Reset a user's password via Graph PS module. That'd be funny. This one's kind of interesting. Yeah, I'm gonna put this one into our. Yeah, I hear you. Azure Cloud Tools. There we go. Yes, let's throw that in there. All right, what else do we have here? CS Aggressor Kit, homemade aggressor scripts for Cobalt Strike. Oh, really? Like your little art makes your repo instantly more trustworthy when you have cool art like that. Summary. Okay, so the following table illustrates all the CNA files included in this project. So we get Slack alerts, auto sleep on start, on exit, beacon name tab, PS color utils. This is Sonata one. This CNA file is a port of the Sonata tool. Is a file hash calculator that supports MD5, SHA-1, 256, and 512. CNA port enhances functionality by supporting string hash calculations. Oh, cool. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to save this one, because this looks like an interesting repo as well. We'll put this over in Red Team. Let's see, anything else in here? I think so. Yeah, we'll just throw that into the Red Team. Hey, cool. Guys, the ads are about to kick off in 30 seconds. I'm going to do a 3-minute ad break so we can be done with them for the rest of the stream. Or I'm not. It's just going to fucking run the ads whenever it feels like. Thank you so much, Bald Bezos. Eat a dick. I do actually need to run real quick, so I'll be right back. Except I hit the wrong button again. Grab it. All right, now I'm back. One sec, yo. Oh, my camera's not on. There it goes. Alright, let's see here. I think we're just about done with actually, I take that back. Had a couple of things. There's one other cool tool here that I just saw. So for all my blue team peeps over here, this was actually pretty cool. This is a cool tool called StratoShark. Lets you explore and analyze applications at the system call level using mature, proven interfaces based on Wireshark. Created basically by a system diag. So it's asking, like, what's really happening in your cloud? So StratoShark lets you explore and investigate the application level behavior of your systems, so you can capture system calls and log activity, use a variety of advanced features to troubleshoot and analyze that activity. So if you've ever used Wireshark, StratoShark will look very familiar. It's a sibling application that shares the same dissection and filtering engine and much of the same user interface. Supports the same file format as Falco and SysDiag, which will let you pivot easily between each of those tools. As an added bonus, it's open source. So this was one I wanted to share because I thought it looked pretty cool. So for all my incident responders out there, I'll drop a link to it. Or just anybody who's doing reverse engineering. It seems like a really cool tool. I'd like to really, actually, one thing I'd like to look at it is, they have a Windows version, they have a Mac version in here. Which is funny because they're showing like libx86 Linux GNU, but like where's the Linux version? Right? All I'm seeing is like this is showing curl on Linux, but they have a Windows version. Use Falco? What is Falco? I'm familiar with Wireshark, but I haven't seen Falco. Decline! Cloud native security tool that provides runtime security across hosts, containers, Kubernetes, cloud environments, leverages custom rules on Linux kernel events and other data sources through plugins, enriching data events. Okay. Seems kind of cute. Created by SysDig. Cool. I learned something today. Well, they had linked to it right here, Gumby, so I had the link right on there. Latest version of StratoShark 9 can be found in the following locations. Where's the source code? I'm guessing it's up on GitHub. It's on GitLab. Do they have? Where's the Linux version though? Because the screenshot was showing. Oh wait, hold on. Was I reading that? Hold on. Yeah, that does not look like it's running on Mac, and they only have like the Windows and Mac versions here. So where's the Linux version? Let me look at the quick start guide. If you wish to use StratoShark on Linux, you'll have to build it yourself. Instructions can be seen here. Oh, that's rude. Let's go build it yourself. Still a really neat tool, though. I just see about playing with it sometimes. What is this? That is... Oh, that was Squidler. No, that was something different. That is. Windows. What's this one? I got so many windows open. That was how to set up VNC. Alright. Check this out. So this is how deep... this is another one I want to do. So switching a little bit out of news, a tiny bit. But there's been all the... around DeepSeek. So this one I came across from Epic AI. I wanted to read through. Or Epoch AI, however you want to say it. How has DeepSeek improved the transformer architecture? In that case, I'll just use Wireshark instead. But it's not for packets, though, Gumby. It should be... It's reading what's happening at the system call level for the processor. So that's where they're doing it. So you can think of it almost like a Wireshark-like interface for tracking syscalls. So it's really, I guess, maybe more akin to something like Procmon. Facebook was flagging Linux topics as security threats. Posts are being blocked, even though much of its infrastructure is on Linux, and posted ads looking for Linux devs. I didn't see that, Tiger. That's funny. All right, so let's look at this real quick. So DeepSeek recently released DeepSeek V3, which is currently a state-of-the-art benchmark performance among open-weight models, alongside a technical report describing some of the detailed training of the model. Impressively, they achieved the state-of-the-art performance by only using 2.8 million H800 hours of training hardware time, equivalent to about 4 times 10 to the 24 flops, if we were to assume a 40% MFU. I don't know what MFU is. Sounds like something Sam Jackson would say. This is about 10 times less training compute than similar performance like Llama 3 1405B. So in this issue, I'll cover some of the important architectural improvements that DeepSeek highlights in their report and why we should expect them to result in better performance compared to a vanilla transformer. The full technical report contains plenty of non-architectural details as well, and I strongly recommend reading it. Let's see. Yes, I recognize some of those symbols. Yes, I do. All right, so what is this? Multi-head latent attention, MLA. MLA is the most important architectural innovation in DeepSeek's models for long context inference. This technique was first introduced in DeepSeek V2, and it's a superior way to reduce the size of the KV cache compared to traditional methods such as grouped query and multi-query attention. I'll start with a brief explanation of KV, how it works, and if you're familiar with that, you can skip it. I don't know what KV is. I'm trying to learn. All right, so when a transformer is used to generate token sequences during inference, it needs to see the context of all the past tokens when deciding which token to output next. Remember, that's largely all these language models are doing, is they're just predicting what is the next logical token. I love how that's the key, that's the word you zoned in on, Pale Horse. Multi-head. Hey, Beavis. Multi-head. Wait, that was Beavis. Fucked it up. Damn it. Hey, Bloodhead. Multi-head. Model flops utilization, MFU. That was totally not the acronym I would have thought that is, Gumby. Let's see. All right, so anyway, so during token sequentially during inference, it needs to see the context of all the past tokens when deciding which token to output next. The naive way to do this is simply to do a forward pass including all past tokens every time we want to generate a new token. But this is inefficient because those past tokens have already been processed before. We would just be recomputing results we've already obtained previously and then discard it. So to avoid recomputation, it's efficient to cache the relevant internal state of the transformer for all past tokens and then retrieve the results from the cache when we need them from future tokens. Because the only way past tokens have influence over future tokens is through their key and value vectors in the attention mechanism. So it suffices to cache these vectors. This is where the name key value cache, or KV cache for short, comes in. Oh, okay. Alright, so you have model flop units, MFU, and hardware flop units. So in a vanilla transformer using a standard multi-head attention mechanism, the number of KV cache parameters per pass token be expressed as 2 times the attention head dimension. He said head. Number of attention heads, and then number of transformer blocks. It's going to be a big number. So for example, GPT-3 had 96 attention heads, 128 dimensions each, and 96 blocks. So each token we'd need a KV cache of 2.63 million parameters, or 4.7 megabytes at the precision of 2 bytes. Damn. GPT-3 didn't support long context windows, but if for the moment we assume it did, then each additional token generated at 100,000 context length would require 470 gigs of memory to read. Damn. That would be expensive. Alright, so we have, let's see, beating group query attention. So the fundamental problem with methods such as grouped query attention or KV cache quantization is that they involve compromising on model quality in order to reduce the size of the KV cache. So instead of this, DeepSeek has found a way to reduce the KV cache size without compromising on quality, at least in their internal experiments. They accomplish this by turning the computation of key and value vectors from the residual stream into a two-step process. In a vanilla transformer, keys and value vectors are computed directly by multiplying the residual stream vector by the matrix. Okay? DeepSeek method essentially forces the matrix to be a low rank. They pick a latent dimension and express it as the product of two matrices. Oh god, I'm having to think back to all my linear algebra. One of the dimensions latent times models, and another with dimensions times latent. Oh god. So then during inference, we only cache the latent vectors and not the full keys and values. We can then shrink the size of the KV cache by making the latent dimensions smaller. This has gone so far over my head already. It sounds like an intro to Python. KV, 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 and dicks all the way down. The problem with all the models is the space needed. Yeah. I did a quick calculation, actually, and I have another follow-on to this, which was a guy who built his own hardware server to run the full DeepSeek V3 or R1 or whatever it is. I keep seeing both with it. But anyway, running the full 600 billion parameter DeepSeek model at home on a tower PC, which is insane. But he did do it. And so I was going to read through that Twitter feed on how he explained it. So natively, this shouldn't fix our problem because we would have to recompute the actual keys and values every time we need to generate a new token. After all, we need the full vectors for the attention to work, not their latents. Multi-head latent attention is based on a clever observation that this is actually not true because we can merge the matrix multiplications that would compute and upscale key and value vectors for their latents with the query and post-attention projections, respectively. Oh god, this was not the fun read I thought it was going to be. This is deep. Okay, let's skip to this part. Mixture of expert innovations. So one of the most popular improvements of the vanilla transformer was the introduction of a mixture of experts. So these models divide the feed-forward blocks from a transformer into multiple distinct experts and add a routing mechanism which sends each token to a small number of these experts in a context-dependent manner. So this means the model can have more parameters than it activates for each specific token. The model can have more parameters than it activates for each specific token. Interesting. So if I understand the sense, let me finish the sentence. So in a sense, decoupling how much of the model knows for the arithmetic cost of processing individual tokens. So rather than passing it through the entire model, each token, they're passing each token through a group of parameters in the model. Interesting. I think that's what it's saying here. So probably the most influential model that currently known to do this is GPT-4. So expert routing algorithms work as followed. Once we exit the attention block of any layer, we have a residual stream vector that is the output. Each expert has a corresponding expert vector of the same dimension, and we decide which expert will become activated by looking at which ones have the highest inner products with the current residual stream. Inner product just means fancy math. Just know that's what it is. The problem is that this introduces a rather ill-behaved, discontinuous function with a discrete image at the heart of the model. In a sharp contrast to a vanilla transformer, which implements a continuous input-output relation. What they mean here is that there's the input and output. If you were to graph it, it doesn't make a smooth curve. It's got peaks and valleys in it. So this causes gradient descent optimization methods to behave poorly on mixture of expert training, often resulting in a routing collapse, where the model gets stuck always activating the same few experts for every token instead of spreading its knowledge out. Okay, so they're saying they need, when they're training it, they have to find a better rewarding mechanism whenever they're doing it. Otherwise, the model just trying to optimize itself doesn't use the entire suite of experts. It sticks to like one or two. Okay, so to get intuition for routing collapse, consider attempting to train the model such as GPT-4 with 16 experts in total and 2 experts activated per token. Now suppose that for random initialization reasons, 2 of these experts just happen to be the best performing ones at the start. Gradient descent will then reinforce the tendency to pick those experts. This will mean these experts will get almost all the gradient signals during updates and become better, while other experts lag behind. So the other experts will continue to not be picked. Basically, it becomes like a reinforcing feedback loop, where those two that maybe through just some random initialization vector ended up performing well, they keep performing well because they're the ones that keep getting fed and keep getting feedback, and the other ones just kind of atrophy. It's a V shape. Yeah, Gubby. I think I'm tracking. There's a whole lot of this that's just going right over smooth brain. So this would mean these experts will get almost all the gradient signals. Yeah, we've covered that. All right, so the fundamental issue is that gradient descent will just heads in the direction that's locally best. Okay, so real quick, what he means by locally best is this. When you're trying to find like, that's not the right thing. Hang on. So quick math aside here. So let's say we've got some function here, right? And this is like, what's the best optimization for this? When it says locally best, it might mean like something in this region right here, right? This is locally best amongst this group, but it is not anywhere near the best, which would be up here. So they've got to find a way to kind of shift this window over so that they can actually hit the real best up here. Let's see. Yeah, here we go. So the fundamental issue is that the gradient descent just heads in the direction that's locally best. This usually works fine in very high-dimensional optimization problems encountered in neural network training. However, when our neural network is so discontinuous in its behavior, even the high dimensionality of the problem space will not save us from that failure. Let's see. DeepSeek V3 does so by combining several different innovations, each with its that we'll discuss. So it does something called auxiliary loss-free load balancing. So a popular method for avoiding routing collapse is to force balanced routing, which is the property that each expert is activated roughly an equal number of times over a sufficiently large batch, by adding to the training loss a term measuring how imbalanced the expert routing was in a particular batch. So this term is called an auxiliary loss, and it makes an intuitive sense that introducing it pushes the model towards balanced routing. However, the DeepSeek V3 technical report notes that such an auxiliary loss hurts model performance even if it ensures a balanced routing. So the alternative is to add expert-specific bias terms to the routing mechanism, which get added to the expert affinities. So the bias terms are not updated through gradient descent, but are instead adjusted throughout training to ensure a load balance. So if a particular expert is not getting as many hits as we think it should, then we can slightly bump up the bias term by a fixed small amount every gradient step until it does. Okay, so they're it sounds like they're fine-tuning it by hand almost by looking at what was the replay of training it. So the technical report notes that this achieves better performance than relying on auxiliary loss, which still ensures appropriate load balancing. And then we have shared experts. So a serious problem with the above method of addressing routing collapse is that it assumes without any justification that an optimally trained mixture of experts would have balanced routing. However, this is a dubious assumption. It is, because you're assuming that each grouping that's an expert in a topic is going to be asked about something an equal number of times. In actuality, it's probably going to be more like the 80-20 split that everything else is. 20% of those experts are going to get 80% of the queries. That's probably, if I had to just take a swag at it, that's what I would guess. So to see why, I consider that any large language model likely has a small amount of information that it uses a lot, while it has a lot of information that it uses rather infrequently. So for instance, most any English request made to a large language model requires the model to know how to speak English, but almost no request made to a language model would require it to know the King of France was who the King of France was in 1510. So it's quite plausible that the optimal mixture of experts should have a few experts which are accessed a lot and store common information, while having others which are accessed sparsely and store specialized information. LLM equals little Luke Miller. You're fired. You're fired. Go. So if we force balanced routing, we lose the ability to implement such a routing setup and have to redundantly duplicate information across different experts. However, if we don't force balanced routing, we face the risk of a routing collapse. So to escape this dilemma, DeepSeek separates experts into two types: shared experts and routed experts. Okay, interesting. So shared experts are always routed to no matter what. They're excluded from both expert affinity calculations and any plausible routing imbalance loss term. So we concern ourselves with ensuring balanced routing only for routed experts. Okay, cool. So we've got two buckets here. We have shared experts and then routed experts. So the shared experts hold what you would consider to be common sense, common knowledge, right? And then the routed experts are, let's call them PhDs in their field, for lack of a better term, specialized actors in their area. And they get routed to. So no matter what, the shared experts get hit, but then also the appropriate routed expert gets hit. Gotcha. Let's see. So the key observation here is that routed collapse is an extreme situation where the likelihood of each individual expert being chosen is either 1 or 0. Naive load balancing addresses this by trying to push the distribution to be uniform, i.e. every expert should have the same number of chances of being selected. However, if our sole concern is to avoid routing collapse, then there's no reason for us to target specifically a uniform distribution. Exactly. They're trying to say, like, hey, everything gets hit the same number of times, right? Everybody gets a turn at bat. But again, we already discussed that's probably not what's going to happen. People are typically going to ask about a small subset of topics 80% of the time, and all the rest 20%. So DeepSeek v3 instead targets a distribution where each expert is either selected for sure or selected with some fixed probability for each token. Interesting. I think it's likely even this distribution is not optimal, and a better choice of distribution will yield a better MOE, but it's already a significant improvement. Let's see. All right, so multi-token prediction. The final change that DeepSeek v3 makes to the vanilla transformer is the ability to predict multiple tokens out for each forward pass of the model. That means each time it sends data through the matrix and gets the final output. So this allows them to use multi-token prediction objectives during training instead of strict next token prediction. And they demonstrate a performance improvement for this from this change in ablation experiments. So the basic idea is the following. We first do an ordinary forward pass for next token prediction, as we would in a vanilla transformer. We use the external residual stream vector to generate next token probabilities through unembedding the softmax. Those are basically just two different optimization algorithms. So unlike a vanilla transformer, we also feed this vector into a subsequent transformer, and we use this output of the block to make predictions about the second next token. So we can iterate this as much as we like through DeepSeek v3, only predicts 2 tokens out during training. Interesting. So they incorporate these predictions about further out tokens into the training objective by adding an additional cross entropy term to the training loss with a weight that can be tuned up or down as a hyperparameter. So this not only gives them additional target to get signal from during training, but also allows the model to be used to speculatively decode itself. I don't know what that is. I'm afraid to click on it. We can generate a few tokens in each forward pass and then show them to the model to decide for which point of view we need to reject the proposed continuations. Let's see. So DeepSeek v3 only uses multi-token prediction up to the second next token. The acceptance rates for the technical report quote the second token prediction between 85 and 90%. So that's pretty impressive. This should allow nearly doubling the inference speed at a fixed price per token. So if we use the aforementioned speculative decoding setup, it doesn't look worse when the acceptance probabilities It doesn't look worse than the acceptance probabilities one would get when decoding Llama 3 and Llama for the 405B versus the 7B. It might be even better. Interesting. So, all that being said, so there was some cool innovation that went into DeepSeek, but this was actually something I really want to look at. This guy did a complete hardware and software setup for running DeepSeek R1 locally. So the actual model with no distillations and Q8 quantization means it's completely undiluted. It hasn't been quantized at all. And the impressive part is he only did it for $6,000. So yeah, I'm going to snooze the ads real quick because they're coming up. I want to see if I can get through this real quick. So how does he start with this? Yeah, only. Let's see. So he starts with this really big ass gigabyte motherboard. It's a dual Ryzen motherboard. It has 24 DDR5 RAM slots. So what he does is he crams these with RAM. He also crams it with 2 of the AMD EPYC CPUs in here. So he's got 2 of those CPUs in. It's running 24 32 gig sticks. So he gets a total of 768 gigs of memory in here. More than enough to run the 600 billion parameter model. So remember, if you have a parameter, if you have a model and it says it's like 4B, 5B, 70B, 100B, 400B, that B value is how many billions of parameters it's got. And if it's running at full 8-bit precision, that's roughly how many bytes you need to run it. So to run a 600B, is that what he said it is? He didn't say it in here, but I think it's a 600 billion parameter model. You need about 600 gigs of RAM to run it. I wonder if it's overclocked. He talks about what the power supply is, a heat sink, and some fans to get it going. So he's got the full thing in here. I'll drop the link to the Twitter thread if anybody wants to check it out. I'm trying to convince my boss to let me build one, but it's not working so far. So the 1 terabyte or larger SSD can fit the R1 fine, just because you'll have a copy of the 700 gigs into RAM when you start the model. So any storage will work. Let's see. Put it all together, throw Linux on it. Also, an important tip. Go into the BIOS and set the number of NUMA groups to 0. This will ensure that every layer of the model is interleaved across all RAM chips, doubling your throughput. Oh, that's important. Nice. Let's see. For software, all the instructions to set up Llama CPP. Go get the model from Hugging Face. Its Codeforce's rating is at 2029. OpenAI was rated at 2061. Damn. Let's see. All right, so after you get you download the model from Hugging Face. Let's see. Believe it or not, you're almost done. There are more elegant ways to set it up, but for a quick demo, just do this. You run the Llama CLI, and you just pipe in the question here. All goes well, you should witness a short load period followed by the stream of consciousness as the LLM runs its process. So once it passes that test, use the Llama server to host the model and pass requests into the your other software. You've got a frontier level intelligence. If you got this far, yes, there's no GPU in this build. If you want to host a GPU for faster generation speed, you can. You'll just lose a lot of quality from quantization. If you want the Q8, you'll need more than 700 gigs of GPU memory, which will probably cost you about 100K plus. Actually, I believe he's wrong. It's going to be closer to 200K because I did the math on it. There's a lot of people asking the generation speed of this build is 6 to 8 tokens per second, which is not terrible. So depending on the specific CPU and RAM you get, it could be slightly less or have a longer chat history. The clip above, he showed it was like near real time. Let's see. Someone point out to a new cooler. Yeah, that's pretty bad. It's a really cool thing. I'm trying to convince my boss to let me build one. Hey, Andrick, what's up, dude? Happy Tuesday. I just installed a couple of 120mm server fans on my PC, so my GPU gets comfy when it needed at 100%. I'm also having troubles configuring my PMW because there's 4 pins, but they just run 100%. That's pretty interesting. Let's see. So we got 6 to 8 tokens per second. What are the questions they ask about here? Let's see. Everybody, that's what everybody wants to know. What's your speed on this? Referencing being able to run the 670 billion parameter model. Okay, so it takes about 670 gigs of RAM. So the OS overhead's really small, but the model's going to take up a shit ton of memory. Just trying to figure out how to afford eggs right now. Dude, my buddy sent me one of the funniest memes earlier today. It was, when I was a kid, eggs and toilet paper were so cheap, we used to throw them at our enemies. I was like, oh god, we did. I'm not saying I ever did. Just saying I know it happened. Oh geez, that was pretty funny. Alright. Let's see here. I think that just about covers everything I wanted to for the news. Oh, actually, there was one news article I missed. So, by the way, changes to SMB signing enforcement in Windows. So, starting in Windows 24H2, if we look at the various operating systems, so who knows how Windows 10 is not on here? That's because they don't want to acknowledge that it's still there. But Windows 11, starting in 24H2, the client and server will start enforced signing. Let's see. And then, yeah, they're starting to enforce that on server 2025. So, very interesting. Wonder what the asterisk here is. SMB signing is only mandated when connecting to sysvol and net login shares that contain group policy GPO login scripts. Oh, interesting. Excuse me? Shh. Y'all making me laugh. Alright, let me see if I can find something real quick here. So, let me go ahead and I'm going to run the ads again real quick because they're tired of them hitting this. I'm going to fire up the lab real quick. And then we'll see if we can make a little bit of headway in some of this stuff there. Yeah, or hit your neighbor's cars. Yeah, exactly. What is SMB? SMB is server message block. That's what you use whenever you're connecting to, you're transferring data in a Windows network. It's a Windows specific protocol, and it's used like anytime you go to like a remote computer and you browse a network share on there, the C drive, whatever. It's doing that through SMB. Yeah, sure. Go ahead and reconnect these things. Alright, go ahead and run the ads real fast. Get them out of the way. Everything's reconnecting. There we go. Alright, I'm thinking what I'm going to do here actually is... We'll tinker around with the lab for the last little bit of the stream here. Let me get into my teamwork session. I think over here on Hack the Bot, I think I'm going to go ahead and blow the lab away. And we'll restart it a little bit. Maybe? What do you think about this? Yeah, the RoboPage's setup was pretty straightforward. There's a couple of modifications I need to make to that. Yeah, no problem, Andrew. Let's do that, though. Let's do Ludus range RM. Yep, go ahead and kill it. We'll kill the range. I'm going to go mix a couple modifications to it. Fresh start sounds risky. No more risky than, like, trying to deal with this damn thing. Alright, let's look at the Hack the Bot reg. I think for now, I'm going to also take out the Windows machine out of here. Let's see, we got Kali. The Kali one there is pretty much just there for fun. We have RoboPages, we got our Windows 10 attack box. I'm going to go ahead and just comment that out for now. And actually, I want to do this a little bit different. Let's do this. Actually, we'll do this a little bit differently. So over here, there's our dev box. Let's... Actually, no, this needs to be on the Ludus box. Connected options, there we go. SMTP. This over. Need to go into our home directory. Home, Hack the Bot. No, that was Hack the Box. Yeah, actually, that's where we were doing this. Ludus Chris ranges. Hack the Bot Dev Lab. Let's open that. There we go. Alright. So we're going to make some modifications to this version. If they work, then I'll propagate them over to the repo. Let's do this. So we'll comment out the Windows box because it takes the longest to deploy. The rest of these actually deploy pretty quick here. Let's see. I'm going to go ahead and revert some of these things. I'm going to take this out. PyCharm we're going to leave. I'm going to try leaving in XFCE for now. Yeah, so I think all of these actually kind of worked. Poetry failed because we didn't have... What was that? I don't think we had wget or curl. One of the two things was missing. Let's go ahead and take all of this stuff out. Oh, just be left with like our basic configuration here. Windows always takes forever with the V&V. Yeah. Well, all the dev work should be taking place over on the dev box right here. So this should be a Debian machine that's strictly just basically for running PyCharm. And then the RoboPages server here should be running everything else. Now, I'm actually debating whether or not I should actually separate out the RoboPages on here. We could always just go run RoboPages locally right here. So I think let's do that for now. Let's comment out the RoboPages server and literally just have Kali for just in case he's testing, and then the dev machine here. So actually, I'm going to rearrange this a bit. I'm going to take this part and let's bring it up here. We'll make this 10. Make this one in VLAN 10, yes. So that'll be 10. This one will be 20. And we're just going to try, we're going to chip this down just a little bit here. And then what I need to find is an Ansible role. Let's see. Ansible role apt install repos. Check this one out. That's interesting. So you do repo key. What if we always have to give it that kind of combination? I don't want to go install those directly from apt though. What I wanted to do is just do an apt, run the apt command. Let me try something here. Is there an Ansible role that will let us just run arbitrary? Let me think about this. So the problem is that I'm trying to solve is the Debian install is super duper lightweight. It has none of the extra awesome tools in there. Let's see. Let's just go look at Ansible Galaxy. Let's do it. Apt install. I didn't like that. Did it have anything about the README text? But it did right here, right? So this is the example playbook he's giving, where it's giving like a repo and a key, like where to go find it. And so I think this is actually for installing certain repositories. Yeah, so this is for installing repositories, but not the applications, not the binaries itself, which is what I want it to do. If we look at tasks over here. Look at min. What it's going to do is it's going to add the apt repo, it's going to add the apt key. So what I might have to end up doing is just going and making my own Ansible role to do this, but I'm really lazy and I don't want to go make my own Ansible role. I prefer if somebody just did it. Let's see. Actually, with Ansible built-in apt, we might be able to get away with some of this. Let's see. So this module, part of the Ansible core. Let's see. What can we do with it? Manages apt packages such as for Debian and Ubuntu. The below requirements are needed to execute this module, which I'm pretty sure we have like Python 3 in here. Let's see. Auto clean, auto remove, clean, deb, package to a dev file to install. Let's see. Forced apt-get. What else do we got here? Install recommends. Corresponds to the no install recommend options for apt. Want that. And here we go. List of package names like foo or package specifier for the version. Name wildcards. Okay. Let's see. Could always just go ask the AI. Let's see what we got here. Oh, here we go. So install Apache HTTP. State present optional. Okay. So here's an example of what we could do. So what we do is we would go make our own Ansible role. We'd throw this in here, and then we would get it. So one thing we could do is we could go do that here. Let me undo this change real quick. I don't want to mess with that. Wait, just don't save it. Don't save any of those changes. I don't know why I decided to do that. There we go. I'm going to undo that modification. I'm thinking here. Add a new folder. Let's call this Ansible roles. Let's do that. And then what we can do is we can start adding some of those roles into here. Maybe a tech could see behind the scenes in the coding and just see what they're really seeing. I'll see how this is so spectacular that the Bitcoin lost money. Really? Did Bitcoin go down today? What are we at right now? It was like super high. Bitcoin price. Let's see. It's at 102,000. It's done tripled since I last looked at it, practically. Let's look at something. I believe over in, maybe in for GitLab. Templates. Oh wait, though these are actual templates in there. We'd look for something. Ansible role. Do boilerplate. Like this. Here. I know. Or whatever Blaze with, because we have the Ludus Ansible roles directory right here. So I thought about adding this to the repo, but maybe I won't. Let's go ahead and... Yeah, it'd make more sense to add it over into the Ansible roles here. Did he actually make changes to it? Let me see. Ooh, nice. He's actually adding in some stuff to it. I might go bring over some of the changes he's made in here. I'm not gonna do that right now. I'll look at that later. Because this was actually a fork of another guy's where I was fixing some stuff in here. What's up? Here we go. So with this in here, what we could do is we could actually just make a copy of one of these ones. Let's see. Let's call this maybe apt installer. Yeah, we can make a change to this right here. Let's see. So we have our tasks, we have our meta, we have our defaults. So our task here, just wipe this out. What we can do is we can actually use the example from here. Hold on. Make sure I'm not losing my mind. Yeah, create domain. I could just do a PR. I just don't want to look at what the changes he made right now are going to be. Especially if it's not going to clobber some of the stuff I was doing. Let's see. Yeah, so these are the actual task names that we're going. Yep. It's the meta. Different Windows versions, Galaxy tags. Cool. Not worry about that. Yeah, there's our defaults. Okay. So I'm going to comment that out so I have something to reference. Let's bring this over. That's remove, update repository, cache, and install. Which actually, that should be it just real fast. Let's see, what is the name supposed to take in here? Let's see. Name would be a list. Maybe the example of, I gotta remember how they're doing lists in YAML. Is the multimodal understanding page. It gives you an area where it says question speed top P. What seed and what does it denote? How do you control it? So when you're looking at an AI model, they usually have to have some kind of random number initialization. That's what the seed is. So any random number generator on a computer is never actually random. It's a pseudo-random property. And the output is randomly distributed, but if you take the same random number generator algorithm and you start with the same seed value, then you get the same output. So if you had one that always returned like, let's say like 73842, and the seed value was X, you take that same thing, you plug in X to it, the random output would be 78342 or whatever I said. So there's always a kind of a big competition of trying to find an actual truly random input to put into those pseudo-random number generators. So that seed value is more than likely, I could be wrong, that random initialization value. The temperature is, I thought you were asking about temperature too. Yeah, so the temperature for these AI models basically tells it how far and how much leniency you give it. If you give it too high of a temperature, that's where a lot of those hallucinations start coming in. Usually considered good temperature is 0.7. It usually runs from like 0 to 1. And so 0.7 is where a lot of models tend to run. If you want like really explicit, like non kind of far afield output, you'd give it like a 0, temperature 0. You should get very similar output each time you do it that. The higher the temperature, the more varied the output's going to be every time you run the model. Let's see. A list of package names like food. Make a list in. What do you do? can just get this going real fast. Yeah, I thought it was just a dash like that. Okay. So I wonder if over in here, so like if we did packages, I think we could do it like, let's try this real quick. We'll do vim curl wget tmux. There we go. Is that how they're doing that, GoPro? Also, how you doing, brother? Yeah, let's say this is how you define a list in YAML, correct? I don't do YAML a ton, but I'm decent at modifying it. Okay, thanks, GoPro. I'm just curious how it hallucinates packages that could be created as malware. How can hallucinate packages that can be created as malware? So the problem you're going to run into with trying to do something like that, Tigreal, is the output from these language models is decidedly non-deterministic. So if you ask it the same question 10 times, you're going to get 10 different iterations of the answer. The overall theme of the answer might be the same, or at least similar. Maybe, I don't know, 2 or 3 of them are like way out there and completely different, but 7 of them are identical. But they're never going to be exactly worded the same. It's a non-deterministic output. So as opposed to, let's say I had a chatbot where every time I asked it, you know, what is 7 times 5, it's always going to get the same answer back. Those models are going to return whatever reasoning they came up with or why you want to do this, whatever. There's going to be some fluff around it where the answers are not going to be exactly identical. They're going to be similar, but they're not going to be identical. It's kind of like they cluster around the right answer. Oh, so I could just do it like an actual list. Okay. Gotcha. Okay. Because what I'm thinking here is I'm going to take this. So our name is going to be update repositories. This actually is going to be a placeholder. So that's actually not what I want. I want it to be, let's see, call this apt packages. We'll save that, and then we'll do some defaults. That out. Apt packages. And we're going to define that as tmux. If you don't define anything, you're getting tmux. So you can make a hallucination by giving it a higher temperature, kind of like if we have 103 temperature, we start hallucinating about things in that case. Not how I thought about it, but yeah, kind of. You get a high enough temperature, you start hallucinating. I got a buddy who does that really badly. If he gets a fever over 101, he's just tripping balls. He gets massive hallucinations. All right, let's see here. Role name, let me change this real quick. What do we call this? We call this apt installer. Description does a simple apt package install. Actually, I think we're going to have to do one more task in here because we're going to need it to... Actually, no, we did tell it to update the cache, so it should do an apt update first. Platforms. I don't know. Linux. There you go. We'll just put that in there. No. It's going to comment this stuff out. Galaxy tags. I don't really care for now. Put those back in. What are the collections in the Ansible meta. Ansible. What is this? There we go. Metadata structure. What is our... There's dependencies. Actually, don't see collections listed in here. We have our description, we got our licenses, our tags, repository. I guess I'm just going to delete that out for now. If I need it, I'll put it back in. Alright. Okay, let's... I do need to wrap up the stream, though, because I'm going to have to... Actually, do have to get up in the morning and do some work. Let's see who's over on InfoSec streams. Hey, Tyler's on. Perfect. All right, guys, when y'all get in there, and by the way, I will drop a link to... He's on YouTube, actually, too, so copy that link. So everyone over on YouTube, if you want another really smart hacking guy to go hang out with, go check him out. Hold on. Before I do that, let me go check and make sure he's actually online. Okay, good. He is. Because occasionally this will lie to me. I'm going to go start the raid real fast because I want to raid him before he raids me. Because whoever gets raided has to stream for another 5 hours. So we're going to go hit him up fast. Where is he? There we go. What's he talking about? Yeah, we're going to go hit him up right now. He hasn't watched him also. Perfect. All right, guys. That's where we're going to wrap it up. We're going to go right over him. When you get over there, do me a favor. Drop a bunch of happy hackers. That's where the Blaze 34 happy. The happy hackers. Drop a bunch of those in there whenever you get a chance. Oh, that's actually pretty funny, Allie. I love playing those kind of games with the language models. Maybe we'll do some more CTFs again soon for the AI models. All right, guys, that's where I got to wrap it up. Have a badass rest of your week. I hope y'all continue crushing it. Remember, you only got 2 more days of crushing it, and then Friday is read-only crushing. No pushing to production on Fridays. Everyone, take care. I want y'all to remember one thing. I love you. Peace.